Orphan saved the biker's daughter from bullies. What the bikers did next shocked everyone. The whole cafeteria went quiet when Drew Keller tipped the soda cup, slow, deliberate, right over the new girl's head. Cola streamed down her collar, darkening her white shirt, while his friends laughed and filmed. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you are watching this from. Because what happened in this room didn't just ruin one girl's day, it marked the moment an invisible orphan became the town's next target. Mia Hart didn't scream. She didn't cry. She stood there, blinking hard, jaw locked, hands balled at her sides like she was holding herself together by force. Drew leaned in close enough that only she could hear him. "Say sorry," he murmured, loud enough for the phones to catch it, soft enough for teachers to pretend they didn't. "Say it like you mean it." A tray clattered somewhere. A few kids snorted. Most stared at their milk cartons like they were suddenly fascinating. Lucas Reed watched from the end of the table row, half shadowed by the vending machines. That's where he always sat. Close to the exit, close to the wall, close to invisible. He kept his head down most days. His phone stayed on vibrate in case his little sister's school called, and his backpack carried more medical paperwork than homework. Drew Keller belonged to the opposite kind of life. Drew was the guy teachers called a leader, and the rest of the school called whatever keeps him off me. Varsity jacket like armor. His friends moved around him like he had gravity. His dad was a deputy sheriff. His mom had a seat in the school's advisory circles that somehow decided everything. Drew didn't have to threaten you with fists. He could threaten you with paperwork. Right now, he didn't even look angry. He looked entertained. Mia's fingers trembled as she reached for her tray. Drew flicked it away with 2 fingers. The plastic plate skidded, dumping fries across the floor. "Oops," Drew said, and his friends laughed harder. Lucas told himself to stay seated. He'd stayed seated 1,000 times. Staying seated was how you survived. But then Drew's friend, Tanner, the one with the buzz cut, hooked a foot behind Mia's ankle and kicked. Not enough to knock her down, just enough to make her stumble, to make the phones capture her flinch, to make the room feel like a hunting ground. Mia caught herself. Her eyes lifted for a split second, scanning the room, not pleading, measuring. They didn't meet Lucas's eyes. That made it worse. Lucas heard his own chair scrape back before he decided anything. The sound cut through the laughter like a crack. Drew turned, eyebrows lifting. "Well, look who grew a spine." Lucas walked into the open like he was stepping onto thin ice. He stopped between Drew and Mia, close enough to block the camera's view. "Leave her alone," Lucas said. It came out calm. That surprised him. His heart was trying to claw out of his ribs, but his voice held steady. Drew smiled. "Who are you?" Lucas knew that tone. It meant Drew already knew. It meant Drew was giving the room a show. "Nobody," Lucas said, and for a second, the word tasted like metal. Mia's wet hair clung to her cheeks. Cola dripped from her chin onto the floor. She shifted, like she wanted to step around Lucas and take the hit herself. Lucas didn't let her. Drew glanced at Mia like she was now background scenery. Then he leaned toward Lucas, voice dropping. "You think you're doing something heroic? You're just making it fun." Lucas didn't move. "She's here alone." Drew's eyes flicked past Lucas to the tables full of watching faces. "Alone?" he chuckled. "That's cute." Tanner stepped forward from Drew's side, shoulders rolling like he was warming up. "Move, man." Lucas held his ground. He was not a fighter. His knuckles still had grease under them from the garage sinks at his job. His hands were for tightening bolts, not throwing punches. But he knew one thing. If he stepped aside now, Mia would pay for it today, and Lucas would pay for it tomorrow anyway, just for seeing. "No," Lucas said. Drew's smile didn't change. He nodded once, almost politely. And then he punched Lucas. Not a wild swing. A quick, clean shot to the ribs right under the arm, where it hurt, where it stole breath, where it didn't leave a dramatic bruise for a camera later. Lucas folded for half a second, air gone, pain flashing white behind his eyes. He didn't fall. He straightened, jaw clenched so hard it ached. He tasted bile. The room erupted, half-shocked noise, half excited. Mia made a sound, small and sharp, like she'd been bitten. "Stop!" a teacher finally yelled from across the room, as if the last 30 seconds hadn't happened. 2 monitors hurried over, not running, just moving fast enough to look responsible. They grabbed Lucas by the arm first. "Lucas," one of them snapped. "What are you doing?" Lucas blinked at her. "He hit me." The monitor's eyes flicked to Drew's varsity jacket, to the phones, to the watching teachers. You were in his face. Drew lifted his hands in a perfect performance of innocence. I was protecting myself. He came at me. Tanner laughed like it was the best joke he'd heard all week. Lucas looked around, waiting for someone, anyone, to say the obvious. For Mia to speak. For a teacher to point at the puddle of cola on her shirt, the fries on the floor, the phones in the air. But adults were already doing what adults did in this town when Drew Keller was involved, smoothing it over. Both of you, office, a teacher said, but her voice softened on Drew's name. Drew, honey, put your phone away. Drew winked at one of his friends as if they'd just nailed a scene. Mia stepped forward, water-black hair still dripping. He didn't. A second teacher cut her off without even looking at her. Mia, sweetie, go clean up. We'll handle this. As the monitors guided him toward the hallway, Lucas's chest burned with every breath. He kept his eyes forward. If he looked at Drew, he'd do something stupid. If he did something stupid, a lot more than his own future would break. At the cafeteria doors, Mia's voice reached him, low enough that it was meant only for him. Don't talk, she said. Save everything. Lucas turned his head a fraction. Her expression wasn't fear. It was focus, like she was already drawing a map in her mind. He didn't understand what she meant. He barely had time to wonder, because Drew's voice floated after them, lazy and sure. Hey, Lucas, Drew called. You've got a little sister, right? Lucas's stomach dropped. Drew smiled wider when he saw it land. Relax, I'm just saying, I'd hate for people to get the wrong idea about you. This town loves its kids. Lucas stopped walking. The monitor tugged his arm. Keep moving. The office hallway smelled like bleach and old carpet. Each step felt like it shook his insides. Inside the main office, the secretary didn't look up from her screen. The assistant principal, Mr. Grady, stood with his arms crossed like Lucas had already confessed. What happened? Mr. Grady asked, but his eyes were on Lucas, not Drew, not the cameras, not the mess. Lucas opened his mouth. The air in his lungs caught on the pain. He stepped in, Lucas managed. He dumped a drink on her. They were filming her. Mr. Grady's mouth tightened. So you escalated. Lucas stared. I stopped it. Mr. Grady tapped a pen against a clipboard. You put yourself in the middle of an altercation. You're on thin ice, Lucas. Thin ice. Like Lucas was the one who had a history. Like Lucas had a father on the sheriff's payroll. Like Lucas had a mother on school committees. Lucas swallowed. I didn't swing. That doesn't matter, Mr. Grady said. Per policy, any physical incident is grounds for suspension. Lucas felt his face go cold. Suspension meant missed work. Missed work meant missed bills. Missed bills meant... His phone buzzed in his pocket. Once, twice. His throat tightened. Only a few people had that number. Take it outside, the secretary said sharply, finally looking up like Lucas's life was an inconvenience. Lucas stepped into the hallway and answered without thinking. Lucas Reed? A woman's voice said, professional, clipped, too calm. This is Ms. Halloway from Child and Family Services. We need to speak today. There's been a report concerning your suitability as a guardian for Lily. Lucas's ribs stopped hurting for a second, replaced by something worse. What report? He whispered. Ms. Halloway didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. An anonymous concern, she said, regarding aggression, instability. We're scheduling a home visit this afternoon. Lucas stared at the cinder block wall like it had shifted. Inside the office, Mr. Grady was already signing a disciplinary slip, and somewhere behind him, Drew Keller was smiling like he'd just opened the first page of a book he planned to finish. Lucas walked back into the office like he was stepping into a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. The assistant principal didn't ask for the video, didn't ask Mia what happened, didn't look at the puddle of soda drying on Lucas's shirt sleeve where the splash had hit him when Drew tipped the cup. Mr. Grady just slid a form across the desk. 2-day suspension, he said, tapping the paper with a pen, as if the ink itself carried authority. Effective immediately. Lucas stared at the words. Suspension. Not detention, not a warning. Suspension meant he wouldn't be in school, which sounded almost like relief until the rest of his life snapped into focus. No, Lucas said quietly. I can't. You can, Mr. Grady cut in, as if Lucas had just claimed he couldn't breathe, and you will. You involved yourself in a fight. I got hit, Lucas said. Drew Keller sat in the corner chair like a guest waiting for his name to be called at the dentist, legs stretched out, smiling with that lazy confidence that came from knowing adults didn't touch him. "He rushed me," Drew said, and his voice carried the perfect amount of victim in it. "I didn't want trouble." Lucas turned his head slowly. Drew's eyes glittered, daring him to react. Mr. Grady didn't even glance at Drew. He looked at Lucas like Lucas was a stain that needed scrubbing. "I've got work," Lucas said, forcing his tone flat. "I have responsibilities." Mr. Grady's mouth tightened, like responsibilities was something Lucas had no right to mention. "Then you should have thought about that before escalating an incident." Lucas felt heat rise in his throat. Escalating. Like standing between a girl and three guys filming her humiliation was the crime. Like taking a rib shot without throwing one back was escalation. The secretary finally spoke, bored. "Sign at the bottom." Lucas didn't move. "I want to appeal." Mr. Grady exhaled, almost annoyed that Lucas was still trying. "You can file a statement. It will be reviewed." Reviewed by who? By the same people who were already acting like Drew's name was a magic word. Lucas's phone buzzed again in his pocket, as if the universe was reminding him, "You don't have time for pride." He took the pen and signed, because refusing would only make them write something worse. Drew chuckled softly. "Good choice." Lucas ignored him. He had learned a long time ago that looking at men like Drew was like throwing meat at a dog. It only made them come closer. Mr. Grady tore off a copy and handed it to Lucas. "We'll need to speak to your guardian." "I don't have one," Lucas said before he could stop himself. For a fraction of a second, Mr. Grady's eyes shifted, something like satisfaction flickering there. The world loved it when Lucas said things that made him sound unstable. "Then your caseworker," Mr. Grady replied. "Whoever is responsible for you. This will be added to your file." Lucas's fingers tightened around the paper. His file. That invisible folder that followed him through every office and every hallway, full of phrases like "at risk" and "non-compliant," ready to be weaponized by anyone who knew how. "Dismissed," Mr. Grady said, already turning away. Lucas stepped out, ribs aching with each breath. The hallway seemed louder now, even though it was empty. Fluorescent lights hummed. Posters about kindness stared down like jokes. He pulled his phone out and called the number that had just hit him like a hammer. A recorded message answered first. "You have reached Child and Family Services." He stabbed the button for a live agent. He waded through music that sounded too cheerful. Finally, a receptionist picked up. "CFS intake." "This is Lucas Reed," he said, keeping his voice steady through sheer will. "Ms. Holloway called me. She said there's a report about my sister." A pause. Keyboard clicks. "Date of birth?" He gave it, more typing. "I'm not seeing," the receptionist started. "It was just now," Lucas said. "She said home visit, today." Another pause. Hold. The line filled with silence. Lucas stared at the wall and tried to breathe without wincing. A home visit. Today. That wasn't normal. That was an ambush. The receptionist came back, voice different now, a fraction colder. "Ms. Holloway is in the field. She'll return your call." "When?" Lucas asked. "As soon as she's able." "I need to know what this is," Lucas said. "My sister, I can't discuss the report over the phone," the receptionist cut in. "You'll be contacted." The call ended. Lucas stood there with the dead tone buzzing in his ear and the suspension paper crumpling in his hand. He could already see the chain reaction. Suspension becomes behavior problem. Behavior problem becomes unstable environment. Unstable environment becomes Lily being reassigned. He shoved the phone back into his pocket and moved. He didn't have time to be angry. Anger was a luxury for people who didn't lose everything when they raised their voice. Outside, the late afternoon air hit him like a slap. Cold, sharp, clean compared to the school's recycled breath. Students poured out in little groups, laughing, replaying the cafeteria scene with their hands and faces like it was entertainment instead of a warning. Lucas kept his head down and walked fast toward the bus stop. He had exactly 39 minutes to get to Lily's after-school program across town. If he was late, they'd mark it. If they marked it, it went in a report. If it went in a report, everything went in a report. The bus was late. Of course it was. Lucas stood there with his foot bouncing, fingers tapping the edge of the suspension paper like he could erase it through friction. A truck rolled past and slowed. Music thumped. Drew Keller's face appeared in the passenger window, framed by tinted glass like a king in a moving throne. Drew didn't shout. He didn't have to. He just lifted his phone and held it up, recording. Then he smiled and made a slow little wave. Lucas didn't react. Not outwardly. But something inside him tightened, hard. Drew wasn't just making fun. He was documenting, building a narrative. The deputy's son, the principal's favorite, filming the orphan like the orphan was the problem. The bus finally wheezed up. Lucas got on and sat near the back, watching the world blur by. His ribs hurt with every bump. He pressed his palm against his side and tried to ignore the nausea rising. At a stoplight, his gaze drifted to the suspension paper again, and his eyes snagged on the printed line beneath it. Guardian contact required. He imagined some adult, hours from now, calling his caseworker, speaking in that careful tone that sounded concerned, but meant danger. "We've had an incident with Lucas." He squeezed his eyes shut and forced the thought away. Lily came first. He got off the bus 2 blocks early because it was faster to run. The after-school building was a low, tired structure attached to the community center, the kind of place that smelled like disinfectant and crayons. A place made for kids whose parents worked late, or didn't exist, or couldn't be trusted. Lucas pushed through the doors and saw Lily at the front desk before the staff even looked up. She was small for her age, with a backpack that seemed too big for her shoulders. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail that didn't match the perfection of other kids' hairstyles, because Lucas did it with one hand while packing lunches with the other. When she saw him, her face lit up, and then immediately changed, because Lily noticed everything. "You're early," she said, then narrowed her eyes. "Or, you're not in school." Lucas forced a smile. "They let me out." Lily's stare didn't soften. "Did you get in trouble?" Lucas held her gaze, considering the truth. Lily had learned early that adults lied to make things easier, and that those lies always came back worse. "A little," Lucas admitted. "But I'm okay." She stepped closer and looked at his side. "You're breathing weird." "I'm fine," Lucas said quickly. "Stop saying that," Lily whispered, like it was a secret rule between them. "You always say that when you're not." Lucas crouched and adjusted her backpack straps. "We're going to the pharmacy." Lily's mouth tightened. "We already went yesterday. We have to pick up the refill." Lily didn't argue, but Lucas saw the fear flicker in her eyes. Fear wasn't dramatic in Lily. It was practical. Fear meant the world had done this before. They walked the 4 blocks to the pharmacy, Lily's hand tucked into the sleeve of Lucas's hoodie. Inside, the place was bright and too quiet. The kind of clean that made you feel like you didn't belong if you weren't wearing a uniform or a suit. Lucas gave the pharmacist Lily's name. The woman typed, clicked, frowned, clicked again. Lucas felt it before she spoke. The shift in the air. That subtle wall going up. "I'm not seeing authorization," the pharmacist said. Lucas leaned forward. "It's the same prescription as always." She kept her expression neutral, but her eyes flicked toward Lily, then back to Lucas. "There's a hold on the account." "A hold?" Lucas repeated, trying to keep his voice steady. "Why?" "It's an insurance verification issue." "It was verified last month," Lucas said. He pulled the worn folder from his backpack, the one full of paperwork he carried everywhere like armor, and slid a copy of the coverage across the counter. The pharmacist barely glanced at it. "The system won't let me override it." Lucas's ribs flared with pain as he exhaled. "So what do I do?" "You can call the insurance provider." Lucas swallowed hard. "And if they don't answer?" The pharmacist hesitated, a fraction. "Then you'll have to wait until it's cleared." Lily's fingers tightened around Lucas's hoodie sleeve. "Lucas," she said softly, like she didn't want the pharmacist to hear. Lucas reached into his pocket and pulled out the last of his cash, crumpled bills from tips at the garage folded into a tight square. He slid it across. "I'll pay," he said, out of pocket. The pharmacist's eyes dropped to the money. Then she shook her head, slow. "I can't. Not without clearance." Lucas stared at her. "You can't take money for medication?" "It's not about money," she said, and the words sounded rehearsed. "It's about authorization." Lucas felt something cold crawl up his spine, because he understood now. This wasn't a random glitch. This wasn't a normal delay. This was pressure. Someone had touched his life somewhere high enough that a screen behind a counter could decide whether his sister got what she needed. He turned away from the counter before his face betrayed him. Lily looked up at him, eyes wide. Are we in trouble?" "No," Lucas lied, then forced himself to correct it. Not you. Not because of you. Lily's voice dropped. Is it because you got in trouble today? Lucas didn't answer fast enough. Lily's eyes darted down, then back up. They're doing it on purpose, Lucas swallowed. Let's sit. They moved to the plastic chairs by the front window. Lucas called the insurance number. He navigated the endless menu. He waited. He listened to music that felt like it was mocking him. Finally, a representative answered. Lucas gave names, dates, policy numbers. He explained. He stayed calm. The representative paused. I'm seeing a requested review. A review? Lucas repeated. By who? I don't have that information, sir. It's my sister's medication, Lucas said, and the steadiness in his voice started to crack. She needs it. I understand, the representative said, in that way that meant she didn't. But until the review is complete, I can't release. How long? Lucas cut in. I can't give an exact time frame. Lucas pressed his fingers into his forehead until stars sparked behind his eyes. This has never happened. Another pause, more clicking. I am seeing a note, the representative said carefully. It appears there was a flag submitted regarding a change in guardianship circumstance. Lucas's breath caught. What? He whispered. I'm sorry, that's what it says. Lucas looked at Lily. She was watching him with a stillness that didn't belong on a child's face. A change in guardianship? Lucas said into the phone, voice low. There hasn't been a change. The system indicates a pending evaluation, the representative replied. That triggers a hold. Lucas felt his stomach drop. Pending evaluation. Home visit. Anonymous report. It was all connected. Drew's smile in the office. The way Mr. Grady said, your caseworker. The way the receptionist at Child and Family Services went cold the moment she pulled up the file. Lucas ended the call because there was nothing left to say. Lily's voice was barely audible. They're going to take me. No, Lucas said, and this time it wasn't a lie. It was a vow. They're not, Lily swallowed. How do you know? Lucas stared out the front window at the parking lot, at the cars moving like the world was normal. I'll fix it, he said. He got up, guided Lily outside, and walked her toward the bus stop with his jaw clenched so hard it ached. He was trying to think, trying to build a plan in his head, but panic kept flooding in around the edges, drowning logic. He needed his caseworker. He needed proof. He needed... Lucas. He stopped. The voice wasn't Lily's. It was behind him. He turned and saw Mia Hart standing near the corner of the pharmacy building, hair dried now, but still darker than it should have been, as if the soda had stained more than fabric. She was wearing a different sweatshirt, probably borrowed from the nurse's office. Her posture was straight, shoulders squared like she refused to shrink. Lucas blinked. What are you doing here? Mia glanced at Lily first, then back to Lucas. I followed the bus, not the creepy way, she added quickly, like she knew how that sounded. The timing was too perfect. Everything that happened today. Lucas's ribs throbbed as he shifted. You shouldn't be here. Mia's eyes flicked to his side. You're hurt. I'm fine, Lucas said automatically. Mia's mouth tightened. Don't. Lucas looked away. Mia stepped closer, lowering her voice. They're going to try to make you look unstable. Lucas's hands curled into fists at his sides. They already are. Mia nodded once like she'd expected it. Then you need to treat everything like evidence. Every call, every letter, every name. Every time someone says policy like it's a weapon, Lucas stared at her. Why are you? Because this isn't just school, Mia said. Her voice stayed steady, but something in her eyes sharpened. When the cameras don't work in the cafeteria at exactly the right moment, that's not an accident. When teachers only grab you, not them, that's not chaos. That's a system choosing. Lucas felt a bitter laugh try to rise, but it died in his throat. That system has always chosen. Mia's gaze didn't drop. Then you need to force it to look. Lucas hesitated. How? Mia reached into her pocket and pulled out a small folded paper. She held it out. Lucas took it cautiously. It was a list, not long, just items written in neat, tight handwriting, dates, times, names. Today, Mia said. Cafeteria, Mr. Grady, the monitors who grabbed you first, the teacher who told me to go clean up, Drew's exact words about your sister. Lucas swallowed. You wrote this down? Mia's eyes didn't flinch. Yes. Lucas glanced at Lily. Lily was staring at Mia like she was trying to decide if she was safe. Mia crouched slightly so she wasn't towering over her. Hey, she said softly. I'm Mia. Lily didn't smile. Are you the one he got suspended for? Lucas's chest tightened. Lily, Mia didn't look offended. She nodded. Yeah, I am. Lily's eyes narrowed. Did you ask him to? No, Mia said. He did it because he's brave. Lucas's throat constricted. Brave. People didn't call him that. People called him problem, case, risk. Lily looked up at Lucas. You're not brave. You're stubborn. Lucas almost smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Mia stood. Listen, I'm sorry. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I need you to understand. This isn't going to stop. Drew doesn't lose. Not here. Not unless... Unless what? Lucas asked. Mia's eyes flicked to the road like she was measuring how much time they had. Unless you have proof. Unless someone bigger than him is forced to pay attention. Lucas's phone buzzed again. He pulled it out. Unknown number, he answered, voice tight. Hello? Lucas Reed, a woman said, professional, calm. This is Ms. Halloway with Child and Family Services. I'm confirming our visit today at 5 p.m. Lucas felt the world tilt. I didn't agree to 5, he managed. It's scheduled, Ms. Halloway replied, like that settled everything. Please make sure Lily is present. Lucas's hand shook. What is this about? A concern was submitted, Ms. Halloway said. We need to assess the environment. By who? Lucas asked, voice rising despite him. Who submitted it? I can't disclose that, she said. Lucas swallowed hard, forcing his tone back down. You said aggression, instability. Based on what? Based on a report, she replied, and her patience thinned by a fraction. We'll discuss details during the visit. Lucas glanced at Lily. Lily's face had gone pale. Mia's eyes had locked onto Lucas's phone like she could hear every word through the air. Lucas lowered his voice. Please, he said. She needs her medication. There's a hold. If that's not within the scope of this call, Ms. Halloway said, be available at 5. The line went dead. Lucas stood there with his phone pressed to his ear, listening to nothing. Mia spoke first. That was her. Lucas nodded once, throat too tight to answer. Mia's gaze was steady. Write it down. Time, number, exact wording. Lucas stared at her. How do you know that matters? Mia's jaw tightened. Because people like this rely on you not remembering, on you being scared enough to forget. Lucas looked down at Lily. She was gripping his hoodie sleeve again like it was the only thing holding her to the earth. He forced his hand to stop shaking and opened his notes app. He typed, 4:12 p.m., Ms. Halloway, confirmed 5 p.m. Make sure Lily is present. Mia watched him, then nodded. Good. Lucas's eyes lifted. Why do you care? Mia hesitated for the first time, like she was stepping around a truth she wasn't allowed to say out loud. Because you didn't have to do that in the cafeteria, she said. You could have looked away like everyone else. Lucas swallowed. Looking away is how people survive. Mia's eyes stayed on his. Not always. The bus rumbled up in the distance. Lucas tightened Lily's backpack straps again, hands moving on autopilot because if he stopped, the fear would swallow him whole. Mia stepped back as the bus doors opened. Keep the paper, she said. Keep every paper. Lucas nodded. Lily climbed the first step, then turned and looked at Mia, expression unreadable. Are you in trouble too? Mia's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. I don't know yet. Lucas guided Lily onto the bus, then followed. He found a seat near the back and watched Mia through the window as the bus pulled away. She stood on the corner, small against the gray sky, hands tucked into her sleeves, eyes fixed on the road like she was already making another decision. Lucas's phone buzzed again before they were even 3 blocks away. This time, it was his boss from the garage. Lucas's thumb hovered over the screen. He didn't answer yet. He stared at Lily's profile as she looked out the window, too quiet, too aware. Because 5 p.m. wasn't far, and for the first time in a long time, Lucas didn't feel like he was being bullied by kids. He felt like he was being hunted by adults. When the bus dropped them off at the community housing building, the sun was already sliding down behind the trees. Lucas held Lily's hand and walked fast, heart pounding louder with every step. He turned the corner to their unit and saw a county sedan parked out front. A woman stood by the door with a clipboard, waiting. The county sedan sat so clean and official in front of the community housing unit that it looked like it didn't belong here. The woman beside it didn't look like a villain. Mid-30s. Hair pinned back, neutral coat. clipboard held tight against her chest like a shield. But Lucas felt the same thing he felt when he saw Drew smiling in the office. A decision had already been made somewhere, and now it was arriving at his door. Ms. Holloway turned as he approached with Lily's hand in his. "Lucas Reed?" she asked, voice calm, almost polite. Lucas nodded once. "Yes." Her eyes flicked to Lily, then back to him. "Thank you for being available. I'm Ms. Holloway, Child and Family Services. This is the home visit I called about." "You said 5, Lucas replied, keeping his tone flat. He could hear Mia's words in his head. Treat everything like evidence. Ms. Holloway didn't blink. "We're early. It happens." "It's 4:27, Lucas said. She made a small note on her clipboard without looking down, like she heard him but didn't care. "May we go inside?" Lucas's ribs throbbed as he breathed in. He could refuse. He could demand a reschedule. He could ask for a supervisor. And he could watch that refusal get written down as uncooperative. He unlocked the door. Inside, the unit was small and worn but clean. Lucas kept it that way because clean meant fewer questions. The counters were wiped. The sink was empty. Lily's shoes were lined up by the wall. The only clutter was the folder stack on the table, forms, receipts, school letters, and the thick binder he kept for Lily's medical history. Ms. Holloway stepped in and scanned the room the way a mechanic scanned an engine bay. Fast, practiced, looking for what could be wrong. "Is anyone else here?" she asked. "No," Lucas said. "It's just us." She nodded as if that confirmed something. "I need to see where Lily sleeps." Lily's fingers tightened around Lucas's. Lucas guided her toward the small bedroom. Ms. Holloway followed, taking notes. She didn't touch anything, but she watched everything. The bed was made, a small nightstand, a battered stuffed rabbit on the pillow. A plastic pill organizer on the dresser, empty because the refill was stuck behind a hold Lucas couldn't break. Ms. Holloway's gaze paused on the organizer. "When was her last dose?" she asked. Lucas's jaw tightened. "This morning." "And you have enough for tonight?" she asked. Lucas forced his voice steady. "There's a pharmacy issue. Insurance is holding the refill." Her eyes lifted. "Why?" "Because someone wants my sister taken," Lucas thought. Out loud he said, "They flagged the account due to a pending evaluation. That's what they told me." Ms. Holloway wrote again. "We'll come back to that." They moved through the tiny kitchen. She checked the fridge. It wasn't full, but there was food. Milk, eggs, leftovers in labeled containers, Lily's lunch items. Ms. Holloway's face didn't change, but she wrote less here, and Lucas hated that he noticed. Back in the living room, she sat on the edge of the couch and placed the clipboard on her lap. "Lucas," she said, tone turning slightly more formal, "I'm required to assess the safety and stability of the home environment based on a concern that was submitted." Lucas sat in the chair across from her, keeping Lily close. "What concern?" She didn't answer that. "I'm going to ask you questions." "About what happened at school?" Lucas asked. Ms. Holloway's eyes held his. "About your behavior, your ability to provide care, your emotional regulation." Lucas felt a flicker of heat in his chest, and he swallowed it down. Emotional regulation. That was how people like Drew turned a punch into a case file. "I have temporary guardianship," Lucas said carefully. "Signed, on record." "And temporary means it can be changed," she replied, still calm. "That's why we're here." Lily shifted, eyes darting between them. Ms. Holloway's gaze softened a fraction as she looked at Lily. "Lily, sweetheart, can you go sit at the table for a moment?" Lily didn't move. Lucas didn't either. "I want her to hear what you're saying," Lucas said. "Ms." Holloway held his gaze a second longer, then nodded as if she'd expected resistance. "Then I'll keep it general." She flipped a page. "There was a report that you became physically aggressive today." Lucas's ribs flared like the punch was happening again. "I didn't. A boy hit me. I stepped between him and a student he was humiliating." Ms. Holloway's pen paused. "Your school documented it as a mutual altercation." "Because his father is a deputy," Lucas said before he could stop himself. Ms. Holloway's eyes sharpened. "Do you have proof of that claim?" Lucas's throat tightened. "I have proof they treat him differently." "That's not the same," she said. Lucas stared at her clipboard. Not because he didn't want to look at her, because he did. He wanted to watch every reaction. But he remembered Mia's list, names, words, timing. So he asked, "What exactly does the report say I did?" Ms. Holloway's face didn't change. "It says you escalated, you approached, you were asked to stop, and you continued." "That's a lie," Lucas said. Ms. Halloway wrote something. Lucas couldn't see it, and that made his skin crawl. "Have you ever hit Lily?" Ms. Halloway asked. Lily stiffened. Lucas's voice stayed low. "No." "Have you ever screamed at her in a way that frightened her?" Ms. Halloway asked. Lucas clenched his jaw. "No." "Have you ever blacked out from anger?" she continued. Lucas stared. "No." She asked about drugs, alcohol, people who visited, whether Lucas had ever been arrested, whether he had ever been suspended before, whether he'd been in fights, whether he'd threatened anyone. Each question felt less like curiosity and more like a template she was trying to fill. Then she leaned slightly forward. "Lily," Ms. Halloway said gently, "does Lucas ever scare you?" Lucas's breath caught. He looked at Lily. Lily's eyes were huge. She swallowed once, hard. "No," she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. "He doesn't scare me. Other people scare me." "Ms." Halloway nodded, as if that was still an answer she could file. "What people?" Lily's gaze flicked to Lucas and then back. "The ones who act nice and then take things away." Lucas felt his throat tighten. He wanted to pull Lily into his arms and never let her speak to another clipboard in her life. Ms. Halloway held Lily's gaze. "Has Lucas ever told you to keep secrets?" Lily frowned. "He tells me to tell the truth." Lucas's chest ached for a different reason now. Ms. Halloway sat back again, pen tapping once. "I need to speak with Lily alone for a few minutes." "No," Lucas said. It came out sharper than he intended. He forced it down. "You can talk to her with me in the room." Ms. Halloway's eyes stayed calm. "Policy requires privacy." Lucas shook his head. "Policy also requires consent. She's a child. She's scared." Ms. Halloway studied him for a long beat. "Are you refusing to cooperate?" Lucas felt the trap close around his ankles. He chose his words carefully. "I'm willing to cooperate in a way that keeps her safe. You can sit at the table with her. I can stand by the door. You can speak quietly. But I'm not leaving her alone with someone who came here because of an anonymous report." Ms. Halloway's pen hovered. Then, finally, she nodded once, like she'd decided a compromise was better than a scene. "Fine," she said. "Stand by the door." Lucas guided Lily to the table. He stood near the kitchen doorway, close enough that Lily could see him, far enough that Ms. Halloway could pretend she had privacy. Ms. Halloway lowered her voice. Lucas couldn't hear every word, but he caught pieces. "Do you feel safe? Has he ever? Do you have food? Do you go to school?" Lily's answers were short, honest, sometimes stubborn. At one point, Lily's voice rose just enough for Lucas to hear. "He's not the problem," Lily said. "People keep trying to make him the problem." Silence followed. Ms. Halloway's tone changed, slightly less smooth. "Who told you that?" "No one," Lily said. "I can see it." Lucas felt something cold settle in his stomach. Lily was smart, too smart for this, and that meant they would try harder. After a few more minutes, Ms. Halloway stood and returned to the couch area. "Thank you," she said, and her expression was professionally neutral again. "Based on what I've seen today, Lily is not in immediate physical danger." Lucas's lungs loosened a fraction, but Ms. Halloway wasn't done. "However," she continued, "I'm concerned about stability due to the pending school discipline and the medical hold." Lucas's jaw tightened. "The medical hold is happening because you opened an evaluation." Ms. Halloway didn't react. "I'm not the insurance provider." "But you triggered the review note," Lucas said. He couldn't help it. Ms. Halloway flipped another page. "I'm going to implement a temporary safety plan." Lucas felt the word hit like a second punch. "A safety plan?" he repeated. "It's a short-term measure," she said, the way people explained handcuffs like bracelets. "Until we complete assessment, it requires Lily to have access to an approved secondary caregiver in case you become unavailable." Lucas stared at her. "I'm not unavailable." "You were just suspended," she replied. "That can impact employment, supervision, routine." Lucas's ribs burned. "My suspension is based on a lie." "Regardless," she said. Lucas's voice dropped. "And if I don't sign?" Ms. Halloway held his gaze. "Then I'll have to escalate to a formal removal petition, and Lily may be placed temporarily while it's reviewed." Lily's hand slid into Lucas's without him noticing. Her fingers were ice. Lucas looked at the paper Ms. Halloway set on the table. Lines, boxes, language designed to make surrender look like agreement. "Who is the approved caregiver?" Lucas asked. "That's for you to propose," Ms. Halloway said. "A relative, a trusted adult with a clean record." Lucas swallowed. There weren't many. That was the point. Orphans didn't have safety nets. They had forms that pretended they did. I don't have relatives, Lucas said. Ms. Halloway's pen hovered. Then a community contact, church, mentor, employer. Lucas's phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't look. He didn't move. He kept his eyes on Ms. Halloway. My employer doesn't want trouble, Lucas said quietly. Ms. Halloway tilted her head. Why would your employer think you're trouble? Lucas felt his pulse spike. Because Drew's father can make a call, he thought. Because my hours can disappear with a suggestion. Out loud he said, because in this town, people get scared. Ms. Halloway didn't argue. She just waited. Lucas stared at the signature line and felt the weight of it. If he signed, he was admitting the possibility that he couldn't keep Lily safe. If he didn't sign, they could take Lily tonight. He picked up the pen with a hand that wanted to shake and forced it steady. He signed. Ms. Halloway took the paper immediately, as if she was afraid he'd change his mind. She stood. I'll be back tomorrow, she said, and we will speak with Lily at her school program as part of the assessment. Lucas's throat tightened. I want to be there. You're suspended, she replied. We'll coordinate. That meant you won't be there. Ms. Halloway walked to the door. Lucas, she added, turning slightly, I recommend you avoid further incidents. Lucas met her eyes. I recommend you figure out who's manufacturing these concerns. Ms. Halloway's face stayed smooth. That's what assessments are for. Then she stepped out and closed the door behind her. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Lucas didn't move for a second. He stared at the door like it might open again, and Lily would be gone. Lily's voice was tiny. You signed. Lucas knelt and put both hands on her shoulders. I signed so you stay here. Lily swallowed. For now. Lucas's phone buzzed again. He pulled it out. Boss, call me now. Lucas's stomach dropped. He stepped into the hallway just outside the unit because he didn't want Lily to hear. He called. His boss, Mr. Henson, didn't even bother with small talk. Lucas, Henson said, voice rough. What the hell happened today? Lucas kept his voice low. I got suspended. A pause, a breath. I had 2 guys come by the shop, Henson said, county, not in uniform. They asked about you, asked if you were stable, if you had issues. Lucas felt his skin go cold. Who were they? Henson exhaled hard. I don't know. They didn't flash badges long enough, but they made it clear I don't want this smoke. Lucas clenched his jaw. Did they threaten you? They didn't have to, Henson snapped. Then his tone softened just a fraction. Look, kid, I like you. You work, you show up, you don't complain. But I can't have the shop under a microscope because a deputy's family is mad. Lucas closed his eyes. So I'm fired. Henson hesitated. Not fired. Not officially. I'm just cutting you down for a bit. Lucas almost laughed. Cutting him down meant cutting Lily's meds. Cutting him down meant cutting rent. Cutting him down meant giving Ms. Halloway exactly what she wanted to write. How much? Lucas asked. Henson cleared his throat. 0 this week. We'll see after. Lucas stared at the hallway floor. The building's paint was chipped. Someone had taped a Be Kind sign to the wall months ago. It was peeling now. Okay, Lucas said. Lucas, Henson added quickly, don't do anything stupid. Don't show up here angry. I won't, Lucas said. Thanks for calling. He ended the call before his voice broke. He went back inside and found Lily sitting on the couch with her knees pulled to her chest, staring at the safety plan copy Ms. Halloway had left behind, like it was a death certificate. Lucas sat at the table and pulled out the folder Mia had told him to build, without even realizing he'd started doing it. He wrote, 4:27 p.m. Ms. Halloway arrived early. Safety plan implemented. Interview requested at Lily's program tomorrow. Medication hold connected to pending evaluation. Employer contacted by county. His hand paused over the paper. He added, boss cut hours to 0 this week. Lily watched him write. You're making a list, she whispered. Lucas nodded once. Yes. Like Mia said, Lily said. Lucas looked up. She told you that? Lily's expression didn't change. I heard you too. I hear everything. Lucas's throat tightened. He reached for his phone and opened a message thread he'd started with Mia. Only 1 line so far, her name and a blank space. He typed, she came early. Safety plan. They're going to talk to Lily tomorrow when I can't be there. They called my boss, cut my hours to 0. He hit send. The reply came faster than he expected. Mia, don't delete anything. Save every paper. Take pictures of everything you signed. I'm coming. Lucas stared at the screen, ribs aching, head spinning. Outside, somewhere down the hall, a door slammed. Footsteps echoed, normal building sounds. But inside that tiny unit, the world had shifted. Lucas looked at Lily, at the empty pill organizer on the dresser, visible through the bedroom doorway, at the list of names and times growing longer by the hour. And for the first time since the cafeteria, he understood the shape of what was happening. Drew wasn't trying to beat him up. Drew was trying to erase him. Mia showed up at Lucas's door less than 30 minutes after his message, breathing hard like she'd walked instead of waiting for a ride. She had a plain backpack, hair tied back, and that same focused look she'd had in the cafeteria, like her feelings were locked in a box until the job was done. Before we go on, tell us in the comments where you're watching this from. Because if you've ever lived in a small town, you know the scariest people aren't always the loud ones. Sometimes they're the ones with clipboards. Lucas opened the door, only halfway. You shouldn't be here. I'm already here, Mia said, and stepped inside before he could argue. Her eyes moved fast, taking in the couch, the table, the binder, the pill organizer on the dresser through the bedroom doorway. She didn't judge. She catalogued. Lily sat curled up on the couch, watching Mia like a wary cat. The safety plan paper lay on the table, creased from being gripped too hard. Mia crouched so she was eye level with Lily. Hey, Lily didn't answer. Mia nodded like that was fair. I'm not going to touch anything without asking, okay? Lily blinked once. Okay. Mia stood, turned to Lucas, and held out her phone. First thing, photos, suspension, safety plan, any letters, anything you signed. We need timestamps. Lucas swallowed. Why are you acting like this is a court case? Mia said quietly. Because it's becoming one. Lucas exhaled through his nose. His ribs still felt like a bruise made of fire. They're talking to Lily tomorrow. Mia's face hardened, not dramatic, just sharper. Without you, Lucas nodded once. Then today matters, Mia said. Tonight matters. Every hour between now and tomorrow matters. She started photographing the documents on the table, one by one, holding her phone steady, making sure the corners were visible. Then she looked at Lucas. Your notes, she said. Lucas pulled out the sheet he'd written on and slid it over. Mia photographed that too, then pointed at the lines. Add this, she said. Exact phrases. Are you refusing to cooperate? Make sure Lily is present. Those words aren't neutral, they're triggers. Lucas stared. You talk like you've seen this before. Mia's eyes flicked away for half a second. I've seen people get destroyed by paperwork. Lucas didn't push. He couldn't afford to. Mia looked toward the bedroom doorway. How many doses left? Lucas's jaw tightened. 1. Tomorrow morning. Mia nodded slowly, as if that confirmed a clock she'd been hearing in her head. Then we need a workaround. A doctor. A clinic. Something not tied to the hold. Lucas shook his head. Walk-in clinics don't give controlled meds. I'm not talking about controlled, Mia snapped, then corrected herself immediately, lowering her voice because Lily was listening. I'm talking about any supporting prescription note, any letter saying she cannot miss doses. Sometimes the system moves when there's liability. Lucas rubbed his forehead. My caseworker won't call back. Then we create a trail that forces a callback, Mia said, and held up her phone again. Record your calls. If you're in a one-party consent state, audio is legal. If you're not, you still document the time, the name, the refusal. They can't pretend you didn't try. Lucas stared at her. How do you know all this? Mia met his eyes. Because I'm not stupid, and because Drew Keller isn't either. At the sound of Drew's name, Lily's fingers tightened around the edge of the couch cushion. Lucas's phone buzzed again. He looked at the screen and felt his stomach clench. School. Resource officer. He didn't answer immediately. He looked at Mia. She made a small gesture. Take it, but don't take it blind. Lucas hit accept and put it on speaker. Lucas Reed, a man's voice said. Official, flat. This is Officer Phelps, a school resource. Lucas kept his tone calm. Yes. I'm calling in reference to today's incident, Phelps said. We're documenting statements. I already gave my statement, Lucas said. Not to law enforcement, Phelps replied. You're suspended pending review, correct? Lucas's jaw tightened. Correct. We've also received concerns about threats made on campus, Phelps continued. Lucas froze. Threats? A pause, the kind that meant the other person was choosing how to phrase a lie. Other students reported you were aggressive and unpredictable, Phelps said. Given your current guardianship situation, I'm advising you to come in for an interview. Mia's eyes locked on Lucas. She mouthed, time. Lucas glanced at the clock on the microwave. 6:08 p.m. He repeated it in his head. I'm not coming in without a guardian or attorney present, Lucas said carefully. Phelps's voice cooled a fraction. You have an attorney? Lucas swallowed. Not yet. Then I suggest you cooperate, Phelps said, because refusing can be documented as non-compliance. Lucas felt his pulse kick. There it was again, the same phrasing, different uniform, same trap. Mia leaned in, whispering just loud enough, ask for it in writing. Lucas cleared his throat. Email me the request, with the details, time, location, and what it's regarding. Another pause, then, faint annoyance. Fine, Phelps said, we'll send it. The call ended. Lucas stood there for a second, phone still in his hand like he expected it to ring again immediately. Mia didn't waste a breath. Write it down, Lucas did. 6:08 p.m., Officer Phelps. Threats. Non-compliance, Lily's voice was small. Are they saying you're bad? Lucas looked at her and felt something crack inside his chest. No, he said, softer. They're trying to make other people believe I'm bad. So they can take me, Lily whispered. Mia stepped closer to Lily, keeping her voice gentle. Nobody gets to just take you. Lily's eyes didn't soften. They do. Mia didn't argue with her reality. She just nodded once. Then we make it harder. Lucas's phone buzzed with a text. Mia. Take pictures of Lily's meds, the empty organizer, everything. Lucas did it. He walked into the bedroom, took photos of the empty slots, the label on the last bottle, the date on the prescription. He made himself do it slowly, like it mattered, because it did. When he came back out, Mia had pulled out a cheap spiral notebook from her bag and set it on the table. New rule, she said. Everything goes here first. You don't rely on your phone dying or getting lost. Lucas stared. You planned this. Mia's mouth tightened. I planned for something. I didn't plan for this. Lucas opened his mouth to respond, but Lily's stomach growled, a loud, innocent sound that sliced through the tension. Lucas blinked like he'd forgotten the most basic thing. Food. I'm going to the store, he said. Mia shook her head immediately. I'm coming. No, Lucas said. You don't need to. I'm coming, Mia repeated, voice flat. If something happens again, I want it recorded. Lucas hesitated, ribs aching. He hated the idea that he needed a witness just to buy milk, but he nodded. They left Lily with the TV on low and the community center neighbor, Ms. Price, from down the hall, knocking on the door 2 minutes later. Lucas didn't love it. He didn't trust anyone completely. But Ms. Price had watched Lily at the center, had always slipped her extra crackers without making it charity. Ms. Price's eyes widened when she saw Mia. Who's this? A friend, Lucas said. Ms. Price looked Lucas up and down, noticing the way he held his side. You look like you got hit by life. Lucas forced a half smile. Just a long day. Ms. Price's expression tightened, but she didn't ask questions. She stepped inside and sat with Lily, turning the volume up a notch like she could drown fear in cartoons. Outside, the air was colder. Streetlights flickered on. Lucas walked with his hands in his hoodie pocket, trying not to wince with every step. Mia stayed half a pace behind him, scanning the parking lot like she expected a car to roll up. You always watch like that? Lucas asked, trying to keep it casual. Mia's eyes didn't leave the road. You didn't get targeted because you swung. You got targeted because you didn't. Lucas frowned. What does that mean? It means they can't call you dangerous if you're quiet, Mia said. So they have to make you look dangerous. They push until you explode. Then they point and say, see? Lucas swallowed. They already called me aggressive. Mia nodded. So now you don't give them anything else. The convenience store was 2 blocks away. Bright, safe-looking, a place where nothing bad should happen. The kind of place where bad things happened anyway. They grabbed bread, milk, cheap soup, bananas. Lucas counted bills in his head, already slicing a week into meals now that his hours were cut to 0. At the register, the cashier's eyes flicked over Lucas too long. Not friendly, curious, like she'd heard something. Lucas paid and didn't meet her gaze. Outside, the parking lot was mostly empty. A truck engine rumbled. Lucas's shoulders tightened. A black pickup rolled slowly across the lot and stopped near the edge by the dumpsters, half hidden by a delivery van. The windows were tinted. The passenger door opened. Tanner stepped out first, chewing gum like it was his job. Then, another guy Lucas recognized from school, a senior named Blake, who played linebacker and never spoke unless he was laughing at someone. Then, Drew Keller. Drew moved like he owned the air around him. Same relaxed smile, same clean clothes, like he hadn't thrown the first punch in a cafeteria just hours ago. Lucas's first instinct was to turn and walk back into the store, but that would look like fear, and fear was what they fed on. Mia didn't speak. She just shifted her phone in her hand, thumb sliding along the side as if she'd already hit record. Drew lifted a hand. "Lucas, hey." Lucas stopped. "What do you want?" Drew's smile widened. "Man, why so hostile? I'm trying to clear the air." Lucas's ribs burned as he adjusted the grocery bag. "Clear it somewhere else." Drew laughed softly. "You hear that? He's got attitude." Tanner cracked his knuckles, slow and deliberate. Drew's gaze flicked to Mia, lingering half a beat too long. "And you brought company? That's adorable." Mia met his eyes without flinching. "Keep walking, Drew." Drew's grin didn't fade, but his eyes sharpened, like he didn't like being addressed as an equal. "Do I know you?" Mia's voice stayed calm. "No." "Then stay out of it," Drew said, and the warmth vanished from his tone. He turned back to Lucas. "Listen, you're making this harder than it has to be." Lucas swallowed. "I'm not making anything." Drew stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was doing Lucas a favor. "You want your life to go back to normal? You make a statement, you say you got in my face, you escalated, you regret it, you say you're stressed because, you know, your situation." Lucas stared. "You want me to lie." Drew shrugged. "Call it whatever. It's just words, but words matter, especially when people are deciding what kind of home your sister lives in." Lucas felt nausea rise, hot and sudden. "Don't talk about her." Drew's eyes glittered. "Why? She's the point." Mia's phone was still aimed down, but her hand was steady. Her other hand drifted toward her pocket like she had a second device, too. Lucas heard his own pulse in his ears. He forced his voice flat. "Leave me alone." Drew sighed dramatically. "Fine. You want to do it the hard way." He nodded once, barely noticeable. Tanner moved. Blake moved with him. Lucas didn't get a chance to react. A hand grabbed the back of his hoodie and yanked him sideways toward the dumpsters, away from the store windows, away from the security camera over the entrance. Lucas staggered, grocery bag swinging. Milk sloshed inside. He tried to pull free, but Blake's forearm slammed into his chest, pinning him against the metal dumpster with a clang. Pain flashed up Lucas's ribs like lightning. Tanner leaned in close, voice low. "Don't swing, man. You swing, we got a reason." Lucas's breath hitched, his side screamed. Mia's voice cut through, sharp. "Stop." Drew didn't even look at her. He stepped into Lucas's space and spoke softly, like this was a private conversation. "You're going to sign the statement," Drew said. "You're going to apologize." "You're going to stay away from her," Lucas spat. "I don't even know her." Drew smiled. "Sure." Then Drew's hand shot out, not a punch. 2 fingers pressing hard into the sore spot under Lucas's ribs, finding the bruise like he'd mapped it earlier. Lucas's knees buckled for half a second. His vision went white. Drew leaned closer, voice a whisper. "You know what I love about your kind, Lucas? You don't have backup. You don't have people. You have paperwork." Lucas forced air into his lungs. "You're sick." Drew's whisper stayed calm. "Tomorrow they talk to your sister without you there. Tomorrow you miss a dose. Tomorrow you lose it, and then the file says you're unstable." Lucas's voice came out rough. "You're doing this." Drew's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Prove it." Mia shifted, taking 1 step forward. Blake turned his head slightly. "Hey, girl," he warned. Mia stopped, phone still recording. "Say that again, Drew. Say what you just said about his sister." Drew's gaze finally slid to her. His smile sharpened. "You recording?" Mia's chin lifted. "Yeah." Drew laughed once, short. "Good. Then record this." He turned back to Lucas, voice still low but clear enough to carry. "Sign it," Drew said, "or Lily doesn't stay with you. Not because of me, because of you, because you can't keep it together." Lucas's stomach dropped. "Don't you dare!" Tanner suddenly shoved Lucas harder into the dumpster, just enough to make his head ring without leaving a cut. "Shut up!" Mia's voice rose, controlled but louder. "Get away from him." Drew lifted both hands, amused. "Relax, nobody's dying." Lucas sucked in a breath and tasted rust. He couldn't tell if he'd bitten his tongue or if it was just panic. Drew leaned in one last time, so close Lucas could smell mint gum on his breath. "This is your warning," Drew murmured. "Next one, we stop being polite." Then Drew stepped back. Blake released Lucas like dropping trash. Tanner kicked the grocery bag as he passed. The milk carton thumped and rolled, leaking. Drew paused, looking at Mia again. "You really should stay out of things you don't understand." Mia didn't blink. "You really should stop talking." For a moment, Drew's smile faltered, just a flicker. Her tone was something he wasn't used to. Then it returned, wider and colder. He got into the truck. The pickup rolled out of the lot like nothing happened. Lucas stayed braced against the dumpster, gasping. His ribs screamed. His hands shook. He fought the urge to vomit. Mia was beside him instantly. "Sit." "I can't," Lucas rasped. "You can," Mia said, and guided him down to the curb behind the delivery van, out of sight from the store entrance. Her phone was still recording, screen glowing. "I got it." Lucas blinked at her. "Got what?" Mia turned the screen toward him. It wasn't a perfect video. It was angled low, mostly shoes and legs and the side of the dumpster. But the audio was clear. Drew's voice saying Lily's name. Drew's voice saying tomorrow they talk to her without him. Drew's voice saying, "Prove it." Lucas's throat tightened until it hurt. That's enough to start," Mia said. She saved the file, then immediately backed it up, thumb moving fast, practiced, sending it to herself, to another contact, to a cloud link Lucas didn't recognize. Lucas stared at her hands. "Who are you sending that to?" Mia didn't answer right away. She looked at Lucas, then at the darkening sky. "Someone who won't ignore it," she said. Lucas swallowed, pain pulsing. "Mia." "Not here," she cut in, soft but firm. "Later." She stood, scanned the lot again, then helped Lucas to his feet. He moved like an old man, one hand clamped to his side. They gathered the ruined groceries and bought replacements with the last of Lucas's cash. Mia tried to offer money. Lucas refused without even thinking. Pride was stupid, but it was his last piece of control. On the walk back, Mia was silent, phone in her hand, thumb hovering like she was one buzz away from pulling a pin. When they reached the building, Ms. Price opened the door before Lucas could knock. Her eyes widened when she saw Lucas's face. "Lord," Lucas forced a smile. "I'm fine." Ms. Price didn't buy it. "You kids come in." Lily ran from the couch and stopped short when she saw Lucas holding his side. "What happened?" she whispered. Lucas knelt slowly, every movement a knife. He tried to make his voice gentle. "I slipped." Lily's eyes narrowed. "That's a lie." Lucas closed his eyes for a second. "Someone pushed me." Lily looked at Mia. "Drew?" Mia's face was controlled, but her eyes were hard. "Yes." Lily's mouth trembled once, then she shoved it down. "They're going to come here." Lucas's heart kicked. "No, Ms. Price is here." Ms. Price straightened, offended on Lily's behalf. "Ain't nobody coming in here to take a child." Mia walked to the table and set her notebook down beside Lucas's growing stack of papers. She wrote one line without asking permission, and Lucas saw the words when she slid it to him. 7:03 p.m. Parking lot behind Quickmart. Drew Keller threatened Lily by name. Lucas stared at it until the letters blurred. Mia pulled her phone out and typed a message with her back half turned, shoulders tight. She hesitated, then hit send. Across town, in a place Lucas had never seen, a phone buzzed in a room filled with low voices and heavier silence. A man's hand picked it up, thick fingers, a scar on the knuckle. The screen glowed with one line. "He saved me. They're breaking him through adults. They just threatened his little sister by name." The man read it once, then again. He stood without raising his voice, and the room went quiet anyway. "Find out who touched child and family," he said, calm as ice. "Names, proof, no noise." Someone in the room shifted. "You want us to—" The man's eyes lifted, and the question died in the air. "We do it clean," he said. "We do it legal. And nobody goes near that boy again." Back in the tiny unit, Lucas didn't know any of that. He only knew his ribs hurt, his money was gone, and his sister was staring at him like she was watching a wall crack. Then there was a knock. Not the soft, neighborly kind. 3 hard raps that made the whole door shudder. Lucas froze. Ms. Price's face tightened. "Who is that?" Mia's hand was already on her phone again. Lucas moved to the door on instinct, positioning his body between it and Lily. He opened it a few inches. A uniformed deputy stood in the hall, face blank, one hand resting near his belt. Behind him, Ms. Holloway stood with her clipboard, expression smooth as ever. "Lucas Reed," the deputy said. "We need to come in." Ms. Holloway's eyes slid past Lucas, searching the room. "We received new information," she said calmly, "and we need to ensure Lily is safe right now." Lucas's throat went dry. "What new information?" he managed. The deputy's gaze didn't soften. "Step aside, son." Lucas tightened his grip on the door edge as Ms. Holloway lifted her clipboard. "Lily needs to come with us for the night," she said, voice gentle like she was offering a blanket. "Until we sort this out." Lucas didn't step aside. He didn't slam the door either. He held it exactly where it was, open just enough to be polite, closed enough to be a boundary, like he was trying to keep the whole world from rushing in on Lily. The deputy's stare was flat, practiced, one of those faces that could look at a kid's fear and call it procedure. Ms. Holloway stood half a step behind him, clipboard angled against her coat, expression smooth as if this was just a scheduling mix-up. "Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching this from. Because if you've ever seen power abuse in real time, you know it doesn't always kick down doors. Sometimes it smiles and says, 'Step aside, son.'" "What new information?" Lucas asked again, forcing his voice to stay even. His ribs screamed when he breathed, but he didn't let it show. "You said earlier she wasn't in immediate danger." Ms. Holloway's eyes flicked, quick, like she remembered saying it, and didn't love that he did too. "We received a call," she said, "about an incident involving you." The deputy shifted his weight, hand still hovering near his belt. "We can do this easy, or we can do this hard." Lucas's jaw tightened. "I want to see the order." Ms. Holloway's mouth barely moved. "Emergency removals don't always require—" "They do," Lucas cut in. He stopped himself from sounding sharp, corrected immediately. "You're asking to take a child from her home. Show me the paperwork." Behind him, Lily made a small sound, like she was trying not to cry and failing. Ms. Price, standing rigid near the couch, lifted her chin. "Baby ain't going nowhere without papers," Ms. Price said, voice steady as stone. The deputy's eyes finally flicked past Lucas, scanning the room, landing on Lily. "Ma'am," he said, warning in the word, "this is official business." "And I'm officially not blind," Ms. Price replied. Mia stood near the table with her phone in her hand. She hadn't said a word yet, but Lucas could feel her presence like a second heartbeat in the room. The phone screen was dark, but her thumb hovered like it could light up the world in a second. Lucas kept his gaze on Ms. Holloway. "What incident?" Ms. Holloway flipped a page on her clipboard, as if she needed it to remember a script. "We were informed you were involved in another physical altercation this evening." Lucas felt the blood drain from his face. "No." The deputy stepped forward, pushing the door wider by inches. "We got a call from a concerned citizen. Said you were violent, said the child is in danger." Lucas planted his foot against the door edge, keeping it from moving more. "A concerned citizen," he repeated quietly, like he was tasting the lie. Ms. Holloway's tone softened, as if she was talking to a frightened animal. "Lucas, this is not a punishment. This is a temporary safety measure." "Temporary," Lily whispered from the couch. Her voice was small and brittle. Like last time, Lucas's chest tightened so hard he almost couldn't breathe. Ms. Holloway's eyes flicked to Lily. "Sweetheart, don't," Lily snapped, the word sudden and sharp. "Don't call me that." The deputy's jaw flexed. "Enough." Lucas raised one hand, palm down, a silent message to Lily. "Don't give them anything." Then he looked back at Ms. Holloway. "You were here 2 hours ago," Lucas said. "You saw the house. You saw Lily. You said she wasn't in immediate danger." Ms. Holloway's pen tapped once against the clipboard. "And now there's additional information." "From who?" Lucas asked. "Tell me." "I can't disclose the reporter," she said automatically. "You can tell me what they claimed," Lucas replied. "Exactly, word for word." Ms. Holloway hesitated a fraction. "They claimed you assaulted someone at a store and returned home in an agitated state. They claimed Lily was screaming." Lucas stared. "That's not what happened." The deputy took another small step, trying to turn inches into permission. "Step aside, son." Lucas didn't move. "No." The air in the hallway sharpened. Ms. Price shifted closer to Lily like her body could be a shield. Mia finally spoke, calm and clear. "Deputy, what's your name and badge number?" The deputy turned his head like he'd just noticed her. "Who are you?" "A witness," Mia said. "Name and badge number." The deputy's eyes narrowed. "This doesn't concern you." "It concerns a child," Mia replied, and lifted her phone slightly. "And I'm recording." The deputy's face tightened, but he didn't stop her. Maybe he didn't want to look afraid of a phone. Maybe he didn't want to admit it mattered. Lucas swallowed hard. "If you take her tonight, where's she going?" Ms. Holloway's expression stayed neutral. "A temporary placement." "Which one?" Lucas asked. "I can't disclose that either," she said. Lucas felt the panic clawing up the back of his throat. Temporary placement meant a stranger's couch, unfamiliar pills, unfamiliar rules, unfamiliar silence. One missed dose, one wrong meal. One night where Lily woke up afraid and nobody knew how to talk her down. "No," Lucas said, voice shaking now despite him. "She stays here." The deputy's patience thinned. "You're obstructing." "I'm asking for the legal order," Lucas fired back. The deputy's eyes hardened. "I am the legal order right now." Mia's voice cut in, sharp. "That's not how it works." The deputy's gaze snapped to her. "You want to test it?" Mia held his eyes. "I want you to say that on camera again." For a second, nobody moved. Fluorescent hallway light buzzed. Somewhere down the hall, someone's TV laughed. Lucas forced his breathing to slow. He remembered the list on the table. He remembered Mia's notebook. He remembered the audio file where Drew had said Lily's name like it was a weapon. He looked at Ms. Holloway. "You're here because of an anonymous report." Ms. Holloway's eyes didn't blink. "Yes." "And you're acting on a second anonymous report," Lucas said, "right after you talked to me about emotional regulation and instability." Ms. Holloway's mouth tightened. "Lucas, you're trying to provoke me," Lucas said. The words came out before he could polish them. "You want me to get angry so you can write it down." The deputy's voice dropped. "Watch your tone." Mia took one step closer to the door, phone still raised. "He's calm. You're the one escalating." Ms. Holloway drew a slow breath, like she was deciding which mask to wear. "Lucas," she said, "I have authority to ensure Lily's safety." "Then use it on the people threatening her," Lucas shot back. Ms. Holloway paused, just barely. "Who is threatening her?" Lucas's throat tightened. Mia answered for him. "Drew Keller." The deputy's face didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Recognition. A tiny shift that told Lucas everything he needed to know. Ms. Holloway's gaze slid to Mia. "Do you have evidence of that claim?" Mia's thumb moved, quick, and her phone screen lit. "Yes?" She stepped forward, careful, and held the phone where Ms. Holloway could see without letting it be grabbed. "This is from tonight, behind Quickmart. Audio is clear." Lucas watched Ms. Holloway's eyes track the screen, and for the first time, the woman's calm cracked, not with emotion, but with calculation. Like she hadn't expected proof to show up this fast. The deputy leaned in slightly. "Let me see that." Mia angled the phone away. "No, not you." The deputy's voice sharpened. "That's evidence in an active matter." "And you're connected," Mia replied, and there was zero fear in her tone. "So no." Lucas felt his pulse slam. Connected. Mia was saying what Lucas couldn't say without getting labeled paranoid. Ms. Holloway held up a hand toward the deputy. "Let me handle it." She stepped closer to the phone, eyes narrowed as she listened. Drew's voice came faintly through the speaker. "Sign it, or Lily doesn't stay with you. Tomorrow they talk to your sister without you there." Lily made a tiny sound and pressed her palms over her ears. Lucas's vision tunneled. He remembered Drew's smile. He remembered the way Tanner had said, "Don't swing, man. You swing, we got a reason." Ms. Holloway listened for 3 seconds. 5. 7. Then she straightened, face resetting. "That could be edited," she said. Mia's eyes went hard. "It's raw, time-stamped, backed up." Ms. Holloway's voice stayed level. "Regardless, this doesn't change tonight's safety concern." Lucas's mouth went dry. "How does that not change it?" Ms. Holloway's pen moved again. "Because the immediate concern is your home environment being unstable." Lucas stared at her like she'd grown another face. "A kid threatened my sister, and that makes my home unstable." Ms. Holloway didn't answer the logic. She didn't have to. Logic wasn't the engine here. Power was. The deputy's patience snapped. "That's it. Step aside." He pushed the door. Lucas shoved back, not violently, just firmly, holding the line. "Don't!" Lucas said, voice shaking. "Don't do this!" The deputy's hand shot out and grabbed Lucas's wrist. Pain lanced through Lucas's arm. His ribs screamed as he braced. Ms. Price surged forward. "Get your hands off him!" The deputy barked. "Ma'am, back up!" Lily stood suddenly, eyes wide, breath coming fast. "Stop! Stop touching him!" Ms. Halloway's voice turned soothing again, the way you talk to a child right before you take something from her. "Lily, honey, don't," Lily said again, louder. "Don't call me that." Lucas felt the room teetering. One more shove, one wrong word, and the story in Ms. Halloway's clipboard would become reality. Mia's voice cut through like a blade. "Deputy, let go of him." The deputy tightened his grip. "You want an obstruction charge too?" Mia didn't flinch. "Try it." The deputy's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" Mia's answer was a fraction of a second late, just long enough for Lucas to feel it. "A witness," she repeated. The deputy leaned closer, voice low enough that it was meant to scare, not be heard. Witnesses can disappear in small towns. Lucas felt Mia's posture change, not fear, something colder. "Then you should be careful what you say on camera," Mia replied, and lifted her phone higher. The red recording dot glowed. The deputy's face went blank again. He released Lucas's wrist and stepped back half a pace, as if he'd decided cameras were inconvenient. Ms. Halloway stepped forward, claiming the space the deputy had given up. "Lucas," she said softly, "if you cooperate, this can be smooth. If you don't, it will be documented, and it will affect your petition for continued guardianship." Lucas's throat burned. "So you're blackmailing me?" Ms. Halloway's eyes stayed calm. "I'm informing you of consequences." Mia spoke quietly, but every word landed. "We're calling your supervisor, right now." Ms. Halloway's eyes flickered. "It's after hours." Mia didn't blink. "Then we call the on-call supervisor, state office, whoever answers." Lucas stared at Mia. "We don't have numbers." Mia's thumb moved on her screen. "I do." Lucas didn't ask how. Mia stepped away from the doorway, phone to her ear now, turning her back slightly. "Hi," she said, voice controlled. "I need the on-call supervisor for Child and Family Services. It's urgent. There's an attempted emergency removal at—" Ms. Halloway's face tightened. The deputy's eyes narrowed again. Lucas felt the shift. They hadn't expected resistance that sounded competent. Ms. Halloway moved quickly, not toward Mia, but toward Lily, like Lily was the lever she could pull without cameras accusing her of force. "Lily," Ms. Halloway said gently, stepping into the room. "We're going to go for a little while, okay? Just tonight." Lily backed up, shaking her head hard. "No." Ms. Halloway reached out, palm open. "I just need you to come with me." Lucas lunged forward and stopped himself at the last second, catching his own movement. He didn't touch Ms. Halloway. He didn't grab. He didn't give them that. He just placed himself between her and Lily, hands visible, voice low. "Don't," Lucas said. "Don't touch her." The deputy stepped in behind Ms. Halloway, angling himself to look like the reasonable one. "Son, you're making this worse." Lucas's voice trembled. "I'm making it documented." Mia's phone call turned into words that made Lucas's blood run cold. "Yes, I'm recording," Mia said into the phone. "Deputy is here. Ms. Halloway is attempting to take the child without showing an order. We have evidence the child is being threatened by a student connected to law enforcement. I need someone to intervene now." She paused, listening. Then her eyes lifted and locked on Ms. Halloway. "Uh-huh," Mia said into the phone. "You want the deputy's name? He won't provide it. But his patch says—" The deputy's face tightened. He moved, fast. He didn't go for Mia's phone in her hand, too obvious. He went for Mia's other hand, the one holding her spare device, her backup, where the cloud upload was running. Lucas saw it in the half-second before it happened, and his whole body reacted on instinct. "Mia," he started. The deputy's hand closed around Mia's wrist. Mia jerked back, but the deputy was stronger. The phone slipped, and for a single heartbeat, everything froze. Lucas, Lily, Miss Price, Ms. Halloway, watching that small rectangle of glass and evidence tumble toward the floor. Lucas reached out. Too late. The phone hit the tile with a hard crack. The screen went black. Lily screamed. Ms. Halloway's eyes flashed, sharp, triumphant for the briefest instant, and the deputy looked at Lucas like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "Now," the deputy said, voice cold, "you're going to step aside." The phone hit the tile and went black. Lily's scream ripped through the room. Lucas's body surged forward, toward Mia, toward the shattered screen, toward the deputy's hand still close enough to grab again. He stopped himself. He forced both hands open at his sides, palms visible. The deputy's patch caught the hallway light. Keller. Lucas's stomach turned to ice. Drew's father. Ms. Holloway's voice slid in, soft as a blanket. Lucas, this is exactly what I meant about instability. Mia yanked her wrist free and kept her other phone to her ear. You're still on the line, she said tightly. Supervisor, Deputy Keller just grabbed me and smashed a device during an attempted removal. Deputy Keller stepped over the threshold. Put the phone down. Mia didn't move. No. Ms. Price pulled Lily close. Ain't nobody taking that child. Ms. Holloway lifted her clipboard. We received additional information. A concerned citizen reported violence. Lucas kept his voice low. What exactly did they claim? They claimed you assaulted someone at a store, Ms. Holloway said, that Lily was screaming, that you returned home agitated. Lucas swallowed hard. We went to Quick Mart. Drew and his friends cornered me behind the store. They shoved me into a dumpster. They threatened Lily by name. Lily never screamed until you showed up. Ms. Holloway's eyes narrowed. So you admit there was a confrontation? I admit I got jumped, Lucas said, and I didn't swing, because I knew you'd use it. Deputy Keller's mouth twisted. You expect me to believe my kid was out there threatening children? Mia cut in, flat. We have audio. Ms. Holloway's lips tightened. Audio can be edited. It's time-stamped, backed up, Mia said. Breaking a phone doesn't erase it. Deputy Keller's gaze snapped to her. Backed up where? Mia didn't answer the way he wanted. Somewhere you can't grab. Ms. Holloway shifted, impatient, and moved toward Lily again. Lily, we're going to step outside for a moment. Don't, Lily snapped, voice shaking. Don't touch me. Ms. Holloway reached anyway, palm open, gentle on the surface. Lucas stepped between them without touching anyone, hands still visible. A human doorway. Don't, he said, quiet. You don't have an order. Ms. Holloway's eyes flashed. Move, Lucas. No, she turned slightly, speaking to her clipboard like it was a witness. Lucas is blocking access to the child. I'm standing still, Lucas said. You're the one advancing. Deputy Keller's voice dropped. You want an obstruction charge? Keep it up. Mia spoke into the phone, steady. Supervisor, they're threatening him with obstruction for asking for a court order. Ms. Holloway tried to soften again, but it sounded thinner now. Lucas, if you cooperate, this can be calm. Show me the order, Lucas said. You're not in a position to demand anything, Deputy Keller replied, then added cruel and precise. She's not your sister on paper. Lily flinched like he'd hit her with the words. Lucas kept his hands open. She's under my guardianship, legal, and you don't take her without a judge. Ms. Holloway tapped her pen. Your refusal is being noted. Then note this too, Lucas said. Your evaluation triggered the insurance hold on her medication. You made her meds a lever. Ms. Holloway's eyes flicked toward the bedroom doorway. Medication compliance is part of stability. You're holding them and blaming me, Lucas said. Deputy Keller exhaled once. Enough talk. He reached out fast and grabbed Lucas's forearm. Pain flashed through Lucas's ribs. He didn't pull back. He didn't shove. He lifted his free hand higher, palm out. Don't touch him, Lily cried. Ms. Price surged forward. Get your hands off that boy. Deputy Keller raised his voice, loud, official. Stop resisting. Lucas went still. I'm not resisting, he said clearly. My hands are open. I haven't touched you. Ms. Holloway's pen scratched. Lucas is escalating, she murmured. Mia snapped into the phone. Supervisor, did you hear him say, stop resisting? While Lucas stood still, he's fabricating an assault. Deputy Keller twisted Lucas's arm just enough to make him flinch, then said louder, he just tried to strike me. That's a lie, Ms. Price shouted. He didn't swing. Lily's voice broke. Stop hurting him. Deputy Keller shoved Lucas back half a step. Lucas caught himself, breathing hard, palms still up. On the ground, the deputy barked, hand moving toward his cuffs. Lucas's mind flashed through the consequences in a single brutal line. Cuffs, removal, night placement, missed meds, new file. He kept his feet planted. I'm not moving toward you, he said. I'm asking you to stop. Mia's eyes flicked to the cuffs. Don't, Deputy Keller leaned in, voice low. I can write whatever I want. Lucas met his eyes. Then say it into a phone that's not yours. Deputy Keller's arm shot toward Mia's call phone. Mia stepped back fast, putting the table between them. Touch me again and the supervisor hears it live. In the hallway, doors cracked. Someone whispered, That's Keller. Another voice muttered, "Why's CPS here at night?" Ms. Price stepped into the doorway and shouted, "Somebody call 911, he's lying." Ms. Holloway's face tightened. "Ma'am, calm down." "Don't tell me calm down," Ms. Price shot back. "You came here to take a child with no papers." Ms. Holloway tried to regain control, turning to Lily. "Come here." Lily pressed into Ms. Price's side. "No." Deputy Keller's eyes darted to the hallway, then back to Lucas, calculating. He didn't like witnesses. Mia's phone crackled. A new voice spilled into the room, tinny but hard. "This is on-call supervisor Darlene Whitaker. Who is Deputy Keller with?" The room froze. Mia didn't blink. "He's with Ms. Holloway. They're attempting an emergency removal without presenting an order. Deputy Keller broke a device and is now claiming Lucas assaulted him." A short pause. "Deputy Keller, are you on this call?" Deputy Keller's jaw flexed. "Deputy Kyle Keller." Whitaker's voice sharpened. "Deputy Keller, step out of that residence immediately. Ms. Holloway, you will not remove the child tonight without an executed court order. If you believe there's imminent danger, you contact state intake, not a county deputy with a conflict of interest." Ms. Holloway started. "Supervisor, the report." "I don't care about a report," Whitaker cut in. "Do you have an order?" Silence. "No," Ms. Holloway said. "Then leave," Whitaker said. "Now." "And Ms. Holloway, if I get another complaint tonight about removal without authority, I open a compliance investigation myself." Deputy Keller pointed at Mia's phone. "That recording? Hand it over," Whitaker's voice snapped. "Deputy Keller, you will not seize phones in a civil welfare contact. Step out." Relief hit Lucas so hard his knees wanted to fold. He stayed upright only because Lily was watching. Deputy Keller released Lucas and stepped back, eyes burning. "This isn't over," he muttered. Mia lifted her phone. "Say it again for the supervisor." Deputy Keller didn't. Ms. Holloway gathered her clipboard. "We'll follow up during business hours," Whitaker's voice snapped. "Leave, now." They went, Ms. Holloway first, Deputy Keller last. He paused at the threshold, staring at Lucas with a look that promised the next attack would be quieter. Then the door shut. Silence. Lily's breathing. Lucas's ribs throbbing. "They almost took me," Lily whispered. Lucas knelt, slow and careful, and took her shoulders gently. "They didn't," he said. "Not tonight." Lucas looked down. A red mark was already blooming around his forearm where Keller had grabbed him. He lifted his own phone and took a photo with the timestamp showing, then another of the broken device on the floor. "Write it," Mia said, already opening her notebook. Exact words. "Stop resisting. Assaulted an officer. Put it on paper." Lucas sat at the table and forced his hand to move, even while his chest rattled with pain. Ms. Price pulled a chair closer to Lily and stayed there like a guard. "I don't want to sleep," Lily whispered. "You don't have to," Ms. Price said. "Not alone." Mia's eyes stayed on Lucas. "This is going to come again," she said softly. "Tomorrow or the next day. So tonight we build a record they can't rewrite." Mia ended the call and finally let her hand shake. "I'm emailing the file and the timestamps," she said. "Tonight." Ms. Price stroked Lily's hair with trembling fingers. "Baby, you stay right here." Mia looked at Lucas. "We need a medical record for your ribs. Urgent care tonight." Lucas swallowed. He hated that she was right. Mia's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "We heard. Don't delete the file. We'll handle the rest." Mia stared at it, then looked at Lucas. "Someone is awake now," she said. Lucas didn't want to go to urgent care, not because he was tough, because every place with forms and fluorescent lights felt like another doorway Ms. Holloway could walk through. But his ribs were turning every breath into a grind, and Mia was right. If the town wanted to paint him as unstable, the best shield was a clean medical record that said what happened to his body and when. Ms. Price refused to let Lily out of her sight, so they all went, Lucas, Mia, Lily, and Ms. Price, crammed into Ms. Price's old sedan that smelled like peppermint and worn fabric. The night was colder now, the streets emptier, and Lucas kept checking the mirrors like he expected a county cruiser to materialize out of the dark. Mia sat in the passenger seat with her phone in one hand and the spiral notebook in the other. She didn't stop moving her thumb. "You're still sending things?" Lucas asked, voice tight. Mia nodded without looking up. "2 emails, Cloud, a contact who can't be leaned on." Lucas glanced at Lily in the back seat. She was pressed against Ms. Price, wide-eyed, silent, holding the stuffed rabbit like it was a life vest. "You have someone," Lucas said to Mia, softer. "Who is it?" Mia's jaw set. "Someone who answers." That was all she gave him. They chose an urgent care across the county line. Mia insisted. Ms. Price grumbled about the drive, but didn't argue. The farther they got from the school district, the lighter the air felt, like the town's invisible hands didn't reach quite as far. The clinic parking lot was half full. A neon sign buzzed. Inside, the waiting room was tired and beige, the kind of place where you saw people at their most exhausted. A vending machine hummed. A TV muttered with subtitles no one watched. Lucas approached the front desk with his hoodie zipped high, hiding how shallow his breathing had gotten. The receptionist's smile was automatic. "Hi there. Name?" "Lucas Reed," he said. Her fingers tapped the keyboard. "Date of birth?" He gave it. She slid paperwork toward him. "Insurance card." Lucas's stomach tightened. I might be paying out of pocket." "Why?" she asked, not suspicious, just routine. Lucas felt Mia's gaze on him. He chose words like stepping over glass. "There's a hold because of a guardianship evaluation. It's temporary." The receptionist's expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened by a fraction as she looked at Lily behind him. "Okay," she said carefully. "We'll start as self-pay and update later." Mia leaned in, voice low. "Write the time." Lucas pulled his phone out and typed, 9:41 p.m., urgent care check-in, insurance hold disclosed. He hated that he was learning to narrate his own life like a case file. A nurse called his name. In the triage room, Lucas sat on crinkling paper while the nurse, Renee, according to her badge, wrapped a cuff around his arm. Blood pressure, pulse, temperature. Renee's eyes flicked to the way Lucas held his side. "What happened?" Lucas opened his mouth. Mia's voice came calm from the corner. "He was attacked, pushed into a dumpster. He didn't fight back." Renee's brows lifted. "When?" "Tonight," Lucas said. "A couple hours ago." Renee's face shifted into the kind of concern that was half sympathy, half liability. "Any loss of consciousness?" "No." "Difficulty breathing?" Lucas hesitated. "It hurts." Renee leaned closer, professional. "Any sharp pain when you inhale?" "Yes." She nodded once and wrote it down. "We'll get imaging." Renee glanced at Lily again and her tone softened. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Lily didn't answer. Her fingers tightened around the rabbit. Ms. Price spoke up, voice blunt. "She's scared. Folks tried to take her tonight." Renee's pen paused mid-air. "Who tried to take her?" Lucas's throat tightened. "Child services. A worker and a deputy." Renee stared for a second, then forced her face back into neutral. "Okay," she said slowly. "We're going to focus on your injury tonight." But Lucas saw it. Even here, far from town, those words made people choose caution. They moved him to an exam room. A different nurse took photos of the bruising with a clinic tablet, standard documentation, the kind that couldn't be forgotten in a notebook. Lucas made sure the timestamp showed. When the doctor came in, Dr. Patel, early 40s, calm eyes. He didn't start with judgment. He started with facts. "Tell me what happened," he said. Lucas spoke carefully, keeping it short. The cafeteria, the shove behind Quick Mart, the pressure, the home visit, the attempted removal. He didn't say names yet. He watched Dr. Patel's face for any sign of disbelief. Dr. Patel didn't flinch. He pressed gently along Lucas's ribs. Lucas hissed. "Possible fracture," Dr. Patel said. "We'll confirm with an X-ray. If it's fractured, we treat pain, restrict activity, document." Lucas swallowed. "Document." Dr. Patel looked at him for a beat longer than normal. "Yes," he said. "Document." While they wheeled Lucas to imaging, Mia stepped into the hallway to make another call. Lucas caught a glimpse of her face as she walked, controlled but tight around the eyes like she was holding back something bigger than anger. Lily watched Lucas disappear behind the imaging doors and whispered to Ms. Price, "If he goes away, they take me." Ms. Price squeezed her shoulder. "Ain't nobody taking you tonight," Lily's voice trembled. "They came with a deputy." Ms. Price's eyes hardened. "Then they came with the wrong woman in the room." In imaging, Lucas stood shirtless under harsh light, trying not to shake. The tech positioned him, snapped the image, then asked quietly, "Domestic?" Lucas blinked. "What?" The tech nodded toward the bruising. "I have to ask," Lucas's mouth went dry. No, he said. Then, because truth mattered in the right place. It was kids, and an adult with a badge backing them. The tech's eyes lifted briefly, something like recognition, then dropped back to the screen. Okay, he said, neutral again. Wait in the room. Back in the exam room, Dr. Patel returned with the results. Hairline fracture, he said. Not displaced. It'll heal, but it'll hurt. No heavy lifting, no strenuous work. I'm documenting mechanism of injury as reported. Assault with blunt force, impact against a hard surface. Lucas's chest loosened a fraction. Thank you. Dr. Patel looked at Lily's chart Ms. Price had brought. Pages of medication history, diagnoses, refill schedule. I'm also writing a note, Dr. Patel said, regarding medical necessity. If her medication is being delayed due to administrative issues, this note states missed doses pose risk. It won't solve everything, but it creates a liability trail. Lucas's throat tightened. Can you call the pharmacy? Dr. Patel nodded. We can try. He stepped out. Renee returned with a small bag of supplies and a printout. Pain management instructions, she said. And here's a copy of the visit summary. Keep it. Lucas took it like it was gold. Renee lowered her voice. I don't know what's happening in your town, she said carefully, but don't ignore this. If someone is pushing your kid sister's medical care, you keep every piece of paper. Lucas stared at her. We are. Renee nodded once like she believed him. Good. Mia came back into the room, phone still in her hand. Her face was paler. Lucas met her eyes. Did you reach your contact? Mia hesitated half a beat. Yes? Who is it? Lucas pressed. Mia's voice stayed steady, but something in it changed, like she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Someone who said we do this clean, no noise. Lucas stared. Those words sounded familiar, too precise. Dr. Patel returned with his own phone in his hand. I spoke with a pharmacist, he said. They're telling me the hold is system-driven due to guardianship review. Lucas's hands curled into fists. So it's just blocked. Dr. Patel looked at him. I can't override an insurer's hold, but I'm putting in writing that interruption is medically unsafe. If anyone delays after receiving this note, it becomes their choice. Lucas nodded, swallowing hard. Okay. Dr. Patel handed him a sealed envelope. Keep this unopened. Give it directly to the pharmacy or caseworker. If you want, we can fax it too. Mia spoke quickly. Fax it. Dr. Patel nodded. We will. As they prepared to leave, Lucas caught movement in the waiting room through the hallway window. 3 men sitting near the vending machine. Leather jackets, heavy boots, quiet posture. Not loud, not drunk, not looking for trouble. One of them looked up and Lucas saw a scar on his knuckle. The man's gaze met Lucas's for a second, just long enough to register him, then dropped back to his phone like Lucas was a name on a list. Lucas's stomach tightened. Mia, he murmured. Mia didn't turn her head, but her shoulders went rigid. Don't stare, she said quietly. Just walk. Ms. Price guided Lily past the waiting room like she was escorting her through a storm. Lily clutched the rabbit and kept her eyes down. At the front desk, the receptionist handed Lucas a discharge packet and a receipt. Lucas took it with both hands and tucked it into his folder immediately. Mr. Reed, the receptionist said, voice low enough to be kind, take care of yourself. Lucas nodded. As they turned to go, the scar-knuckle man stood and stepped into their path, not blocking, just present. He didn't smile. He didn't threaten. He held out a plain white envelope. This is for you, he said. Lucas froze. Who are you? A friend of a friend, the man replied, calm as if that should be enough. His eyes flicked to Lily, then back to Lucas. Keep your hands clean. Keep your records cleaner. Mia's breath caught. Lucas stared at the envelope. What is it? The man's voice stayed even. A number that answers, and a place to take that doctor's note where it won't get lost. Lucas's ribs throbbed as he reached out and took it. The envelope felt heavier than paper should. What's your name? Lucas asked. The man paused. Call the number, he said instead. Tonight. Then he walked out without looking back, and the other two followed. Quiet, controlled, like they hadn't been waiting for a fight. Lucas stood there with the envelope in his hand, pulse pounding. Mia's voice was barely audible. I told you. Someone is awake now. Lucas looked down at the envelope. He didn't open it yet, because his phone buzzed at that exact moment, an email notification from the school district. Subject, Mandatory interview, 7:15 a.m. Lucas stared at the screen as if the words might change. Then Lily tugged his sleeve, whispering through a shaking breath, "They're coming back in the morning, aren't they?" They didn't talk much on the drive back. Ms. Price kept both hands locked on the steering wheel, like the road was the only thing she could control. Lily leaned against her, eyes open, not blinking enough. Lucas sat behind Mia, holding his discharge packet against his chest, as if paper could keep his bones together. The envelope stayed in his pocket until they were inside the unit, and the deadbolt clicked. Mia set the notebook on the table. Ms. Price went straight to the kitchen, filled a glass with water, and handed it to Lucas without a word. He drank and felt it scrape down his throat. "Show me the email," Mia said. Lucas opened his phone and turned the screen toward her. Mandatory interview, 7:15 a.m. Failure to appear may result in further disciplinary and legal action. Mia's eyes tracked it once. "They want you isolated, early, before anyone answers phones." "I'm suspended," Lucas said. "How's it mandatory?" Mia didn't smile. "Because mandatory makes people panic," Ms. Price snorted from the sink. "They can mandate my—" "Please," Lucas cut in softly. He didn't have room for explosions, even friendly ones. He pulled the envelope out and placed it on the table. For a second, he just stared at it. It felt wrong that one thin strip of paper could change anything. Nothing changed like that for people like him. Mia didn't touch it. She waited, giving him the choice. Lucas slid a finger under the flap and opened it. Inside was a business card and a folded sheet. The card was plain. No logo, just a name and number. Elias Sutter, attorney at Law 24/7 line. The folded sheet had 3 lines, printed like instructions, not a message. Do not attend any interview without counsel. Do not speak to school resource or deputies outside recorded channels. Bring all documents. Photograph all injuries. Keep a timeline. Lucas looked up. "You sent this." Mia's jaw tightened. "I sent your note. I didn't send that." "So who did?" Lucas asked. Mia didn't answer. She reached for her phone. "Call." Lucas hesitated. "What if it's a trap?" Mia's eyes stayed steady. "Then it's a trap that found you anyway. Call." He dialed. The line rang once, twice. A man picked up on the third ring, voice low, awake, not groggy. "Sutter," Lucas swallowed. "My name is Lucas Reed." A pause, not surprise, confirmation. "I know," Lucas's pulse jumped. "Who are you?" "An attorney," Sutter said. "And right now, you're going to say as little as possible." Lucas glanced at Mia. She nodded once, small. "They want me at a mandatory interview at 7:15, Lucas said. "School resource officer. There was an attempted removal tonight. They called me violent." "Do you have injuries documented?" Sutter asked. "Yes, urgent care, X-ray, hairline fracture." "Good," Sutter said. "Do you have a copy of the attempted removal call? Names?" Mia spoke for the first time into Lucas's phone, careful. On-call supervisor Whitaker intervened. Deputy Kyle Keller was present. Ms. Halloway was the worker. Silence for a beat, then Sutter's voice sharpened slightly. "Keller, copy." Lucas felt cold. "What do I do about the interview?" "You do not go alone," Sutter said, "and you do not answer questions without me present. If they insist, you say one sentence, 'I'm represented, and I will not speak without counsel.' Then you shut up." Lucas swallowed. "I don't have money." "You have a kid who can be taken," Sutter said. "Payment can be discussed later. Your silence can't." Lucas's ribs ached as he breathed. "They're holding my sister's medication because of the evaluation." "Get me the doctor's note," Sutter said. "Tonight, photo it, send it. We'll fax it to the insurer and CFS intake. Then, if someone delays, we have names." Mia was already taking pictures of the urgent care summary. Sutter continued, voice steady. "I want you to meet me at 6:10 a.m., not at the school. At the diner off Route 9. Booth in the back. Bring everything." Lucas stared at the card in his hand. "Why a diner?" "Because the sheriff's office doesn't get to decide what's private," Sutter replied. "And because public places have cameras." Ms. Price stepped closer, drying her hands on a towel. "Who is that?" Mia answered for Lucas. "A lawyer." Ms. Price's face softened with relief, then hardened with suspicion. "A real one?" Sutter's voice came through the speaker. "Ma'am, I'm real enough to file complaints by sunrise." Ms. Price nodded like she'd accept that. Sutter's tone changed. "Lucas, tonight was a probe. They tested how easily they can enter your home and control the narrative. The next move will be cleaner. Paper, not fists. Lucas looked at Lily. She was listening, silent, absorbing every word as if it was weather. "What does that mean?" Lucas asked. "It means they'll try to get you to sign something," Sutter said. "Or they'll get a judge who doesn't read and they'll show up with an order." "So we get ahead of it." "How?" Lucas asked. "We create our own record," Sutter said. "First thing, you write a sworn statement, you and Ms. Price, Mia too if she's willing. Describe the attempted removal, the deputy's conduct, the threat you recorded, and the timeline. No opinions, only facts, times, exact words." Mia's pen was already moving. Sutter added, "Second, we request the Quick Mart security footage before it disappears. Do you know if there's a camera near the dumpsters?" Lucas nodded. "There's one over the back door." "Then someone will say it malfunctioned," Sutter said. "So we request it now, tonight. I'll send a preservation letter. I need the store address." Mia spoke it into the phone. Sutter's voice stayed cold and even. "Third, tomorrow, do not let CFS interview Lily without you or counsel. If they try, you refuse access." Lucas's throat tightened. "They'll call me non-compliant." "Let them," Sutter said. "Non-compliant is a label. A child removed is a fact." Lucas closed his eyes for a second, then opened them. "Okay." Sutter's voice softened a fraction. "You're doing better than they expect. Keep it that way. I'll see you at 6:10. The line went dead. For a moment, none of them moved. Then Mia exhaled like she'd been holding her breath since the cafeteria. "Okay," she said, almost to herself. "We move first." Lucas sat at the table and wrote until his wrist cramped. He wrote the early arrival, the wording, the safety plan, the attempted nighttime removal, Deputy Keller's grip, the phrase, "stop resisting," used as a weapon, the broken phone, the supervisor's order to leave. He kept it plain. No anger, just facts. Ms. Price wrote her own statement in blocky handwriting, face set with stubborn rage. She included the exact moment Keller grabbed Lucas and the way Ms. Halloway moved toward Lily without an order. Mia wrote last. Her statement was the shortest and the sharpest. Times, names, the audio threat, the device seizure. Lily watched them like she was watching adults build a wall out of paper. When they finished, Mia photographed every page and sent them to Sutter. Then, she uploaded to 2 separate drives and texted the links to someone Lucas didn't recognize. Lucas checked the locks twice, then a third time. He hated himself for it. At midnight, Lily finally dozed off on the couch with Ms. Price beside her. Lucas couldn't bring himself to move her to the bedroom. If someone came in again, he wanted her where he could see her. Mia stood at the window, watching the parking lot. "Who are those men?" Lucas asked quietly. "At urgent care." Mia didn't turn. "People who don't like kids getting crushed." "That's not an answer," Lucas said. Mia's shoulders rose and fell once. "My dad has friends." Lucas stared. "Your dad?" Mia finally turned. Her eyes were tired now, not just focused. "Lucas, the reason I didn't tell you my last name is because people act different when they hear it." Lucas swallowed. "What is it?" Mia hesitated, then said it like a warning. "Hart." Lucas felt the name land, heavy. "Like Garland Hart?" Miss Price asked from the couch without opening her eyes. Her voice was low, rough. Mia's face went still. "Yes?" Lucas's mouth went dry. He'd heard the name in town the way you heard storms on the radio. Not personal, not close. Something you respected from a distance. "You're his daughter," Lucas whispered. Mia nodded once. And Drew knew. That's why this turned into adults so fast. Lucas's brain tried to catch up. He thought of Drew's confidence, the way the deputy's patch said Keller, the way Ms. Halloway arrived early like she'd been scheduled. Lily stirred and whispered in her sleep, "Don't take me." Lucas's chest tightened. He looked at Mia. "So what happens now?" Mia's voice stayed flat, but her eyes were hard. "Now my dad finds out who touched the system." Outside, a car door shut. Soft, distant. Lucas froze, holding his breath. Mia tilted her head, listening. Footsteps in the hall. Lucas moved to the door and looked through the peephole. A woman stood there in a plain coat, no clipboard, no badge. She held a folder under her arm and a courier envelope in her hand. She didn't knock hard, just tapped twice and waited, like she expected him to be awake. Lucas didn't open the door. "Who are you?" he called through it. The woman kept her voice low, professional. "Process server." Lucas's stomach dropped. She slid the courier envelope under the door with 2 fingers, careful not to crease it. "This is time-stamped service," she said. "Emergency petition filed for morning docket. You're listed as respondent." Lucas stared at the envelope on the floor like it was something alive. The woman's footsteps retreated down the hall. Lucas picked it up with hands that wouldn't quite steady, tore it open, and unfolded the first page. Emergency removal petition, Child and Family Services. Lucas read the first page twice, then a third time, because his brain refused to accept it as real. Emergency removal petition, filed by Child and Family Services, morning docket. His throat went dry. He looked up at the door like the process server might still be standing there, waiting to see him break. Mia was already moving. She pulled the papers from his hands, laid them flat, and photographed every page corner to corner. Date stamp, case number, filing time, the exact wording they were about to use to erase his life. Ms. Price pushed herself upright on the couch without fully waking Lily. "What is it?" Lucas swallowed. "They filed for removal. Morning." Ms. Price's face tightened like she'd been slapped. "On what grounds?" Lucas forced himself to read it out loud because if he didn't, the words would own him. Alleged instability, alleged violence, alleged obstruction of a welfare check, alleged interference with a deputy. Mia's jaw clenched. "They're writing their own version. And a judge will see it before we do," Lucas whispered. Lily stirred, eyes blinking open. She looked around, confused, then saw the paper in Lucas's hand and understood anyway. Fear didn't need explanations. "They're taking me," she said, flat. "No," Lucas said immediately, dropping to his knees beside her. His ribs screamed and he ignored it. "Not if we show up ready." Lily's fingers tightened around the rabbit. "Ready like what?" Lucas didn't know how to answer without lying. Mia did. "Ready like evidence, ready like adults who can't pretend they didn't see." She picked up the lawyer's card and handed it to Lucas like it was a weapon you used with words. "Call," she said. Lucas dialed with hands that wanted to shake. Sutter answered on the first ring. "Read it," Sutter said immediately, like he'd already seen it. Lucas blinked. "How?" "Because emergency petitions get filed when someone thinks they can win before you wake up," Sutter replied. "What time was service?" Mia cut in, precise. 12:14 a.m. process server. We have video of delivery and photos." "Good," Sutter said. "Do not speak to anyone from school, police, or CFS tonight. Not one word. I'm drafting a response now. I'll file before the clerk opens." Lucas's throat tightened. "Can you stop it?" "I can slow it," Sutter said, "and I can expose what they did tonight, but you have to do exactly what I say." "Okay," Lucas breathed. "Meet me at the Route 9 diner," Sutter said. 6:10. Bring all documents, all photos, and the urgent care discharge summary. Bring the broken phone. Bring Mia. Bring Ms. Price. Lucas stared at the sleeping hallway beyond his door. "They'll be waiting at the school." "Let them wait," Sutter said. "If they call it mandatory, you answer once by email. I'm represented by counsel, all communication through my attorney." Nothing else. Mia was already typing the email on Lucas's phone, using the school's message thread so it couldn't be denied later. Sutter's voice sharpened. "One more thing. Lucas, in the petition, do they mention Deputy Keller by name?" Lucas scanned the page, eyes burning. "Yes, they claim I resisted him." "Perfect," Sutter said, cold. "Conflict of interest. He should never have been there. That's a problem for them, not you." Lucas almost couldn't breathe. "They don't care." "They will when it's in a filing," Sutter replied. "See you at 6:10. The call ended. Mia didn't waste a second. She stacked everything: sworn statements, urgent care note, photos of bruises, the audio file transcript she'd typed, and the timeline page with exact words written out: "Stop resisting, no order, safety plan." She slid the packet into Lucas's folder and taped the envelope shut like it was evidence in a trial. Ms. Price sat with Lily, whispering steady nonsense: cartoons, breakfast, school lunches, anything that sounded normal enough to keep Lily from spiraling. Lucas sat at the table, staring at the petition again, and felt rage try to rise. He pushed it down. Rage was what they wanted. Rage was what they could write. At 3:06 a.m., Mia's phone buzzed once. She glanced at the screen and her face went still. Lucas whispered, What? Mia hesitated. My dad knows. He said, don't miss the diner. Don't do anything loud. Lucas's mouth went dry. He's involved now. Mia's eyes stayed hard. He was involved the second Drew said Lily's name. They left before dawn. Ms. Price carried Lily in her coat like she was afraid the hallway itself could take her. Lucas held his folder tight against his chest. Mia walked half a step behind him, eyes scanning corners and parked cars. The diner smelled like coffee and fried eggs. It was too bright, too normal. Sutter sat in the back booth, already awake, already with a laptop open and a legal pad filled with handwriting. He looked at Lucas's face, the way Lucas guarded his ribs, and nodded once like that was enough. Sit, Sutter said. Lucas slid in with Lily and Ms. Price. Mia sat beside him, phone face down on the table but ready. Sutter flipped the petition open, read fast, then set it down with a quiet click. They're trying for an ex parte order, he said. That means they want the judge to act before hearing from you. Lucas's throat tightened. Can they? They can try, Sutter said, but your documentation is better than their story. He pointed to the urgent care summary. This proves assault, time-stamped, medical record. He pointed to the photos of the bruise on Lucas's arm. This supports improper contact. He pointed to Ms. Price's sworn statement. Independent adult witness. He pointed to Mia's statement. Second witness and video/audio evidence. Then Sutter looked Lucas dead in the eye. Here's the most important part. You do not talk in that courtroom unless I tell you to. You do not react. You do not argue. You let me fight. Lucas nodded once, swallowing hard. Sutter's fingers moved on the laptop. I'm filing an emergency objection and a motion to strike Keller's involvement. I'm also requesting the judge order the insurer and pharmacy to release Lily's medication immediately pending review. If the judge refuses, we have grounds for state escalation. Mia's voice was quiet. They'll say the audio is fake, Sutter nodded. Then we ask for the QuickMart footage. Preservation letter goes out now. If it disappears, that helps us too. Ms. Price leaned in. What if the judge is friends with them? Sutter didn't blink. Then we make the judge write it down. They drove to the courthouse as the sky turned gray. The building was small-town official. Flags, stone steps, old plaques. Lucas felt like he was walking into a place built to swallow people like him. Inside, Deputy Keller stood near the hallway, uniform crisp, face blank. Drew was there too, leaning against a wall, hands in his pockets like this was a game day. When Drew spotted Lucas, his mouth curved. Lucas kept his eyes forward. Sutter stepped between them without looking at Keller. Deputy, he said, voice flat, do not speak to my client. Keller's jaw flexed. He assaulted an officer. Alleged, Sutter replied, and you're conflicted, so I suggest you stand down before you create another problem. Keller's eyes slid to Mia, then away fast like he didn't want to acknowledge her. Ms. Halloway appeared with a folder, face smooth, but her eyes sharpened when she saw Sutter. Mr. Reed, she began. Sutter cut her off. Counsel, any communication through me. They entered the courtroom. It was smaller than Lucas expected. That made it worse. No distance, no anonymity. The judge came in, older, tired-eyed, already holding the petition. He glanced at Lucas like Lucas was a file, not a person. Suitor stood. Your Honor, emergency objection filed at 6:02 a.m. with exhibits. We are requesting denial of ex parte removal and immediate medical access order. The judge's eyes flicked to the stack the clerk handed him. He scanned. His brow tightened slightly at the urgent care report, at the timestamps, at the words hairline rib fracture and assault with blunt force. Ms. Halloway stood next, voice practiced. We have concerns about instability and violent behavior. Sutter cut in smoothly. The alleged violent behavior is unsupported and contradicted by medical documentation and independent witnesses. Additionally, the deputy involved is the father of the minor accused of threatening the child. Conflict of interest. This entire petition is contaminated. The courtroom went still. The judge looked up, eyes narrowing. Deputy Keller, step forward. Keller did, face controlled. The judge's voice hardened. Are you related to a student named Drew Keller? Yes, sir. And were you present during an attempted removal last night? Keller's jaw flexed. Yes, sir. The judge looked at Ms. Halloway. Why was a conflicted deputy used? Ms. Halloway's calm thinned. We needed law enforcement support. For a civil welfare check, the judge said, sharper now, at night, without an order. Lucas felt his pulse slam. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was the first crack in their script. Sutter spoke again, steady. Your Honor, we also request a direct order that the minor not be interviewed without counsel present and that the child's medication access be restored today. The judge stared at the paper, then at Lily sitting small beside Ms. Price, clutching her rabbit like it was part of her body. Finally, he spoke. Ex parte removal is denied at this time. Lucas's lungs loosened so hard it almost hurt. The judge lifted a finger. However, a full hearing will be scheduled within 72 hours. Child Services will conduct a daytime welfare check with a non-conflicted officer, if any. And Mr. Reed. Lucas froze. Sutter's hand touched Lucas's shoulder, a silent warning. Don't speak. The judge continued, eyes on Sutter now. I am ordering the insurer and pharmacy to release the child's medication pending review. Today. Ms. Holloway's face tightened. Deputy Keller's eyes burned. Drew's smile faltered for the first time. Sutter nodded once. Thank you, Your Honor. As they filed out, Lucas kept his head down, folder clutched tight. Lily whispered, barely audible. I'm still yours? Lucas's throat tightened. He nodded once. Yes. They stepped onto the courthouse steps into cold morning air that tasted like metal. Mia's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, and the color drained from her face. Lucas saw one line over her shoulder. Drew has filed a criminal complaint. Assault on a deputy. Mia's voice went flat. They're switching to handcuffs. Mia didn't show Lucas the whole screen. She didn't have to. The words were enough. Assault on a deputy. Lucas stood on the courthouse steps with his folder pressed to his chest, the cold air cutting into his lungs, and felt the ground shift again, like every time he found a foothold, the town moved the cliff under him. Sutter took Mia's phone, read the message once, then handed it back without a flicker of panic. Good, he said. Lucas blinked. Good? Good because it tells me exactly what they're doing, Sutter replied, already moving them down the steps. They lost the removal today, so now they want handcuffs. Different doorway, same destination. Ms. Price tightened her hold on Lily. They can't do that. Not after the judge. They can file anything, Sutter cut in. They just can't prove it. That's our job. Lucas's ribs throbbed with every step. Do I get arrested? Sutter stopped long enough to look him dead in the eye. Not if you do exactly what I say. You do not speak to any officer today. You do not answer calls. You do not go back to school. You go with me. You pick up the medication with a court order in hand, and you let them choke on their own paperwork. Mia's jaw tightened. They'll try to intercept him. Sutter nodded once. That's why we move now. They didn't go to Lucas's unit. Not yet. Sutter drove them to his office, 2 rooms above a tax service in a strip mall, the kind of place no one respected until they needed it. Inside, Sutter locked the door behind them and immediately started making calls. Clerk, I need certified copies of the medication order, he said into one line. Yes, today. On another line, DA's office, I'm notifying you of a retaliatory criminal complaint filed by Deputy Keller, conflicted party. I'm emailing exhibits. Lucas watched Sutter's hands, steady, relentless, no emotion, just motion. Like Sutter had done this exact dance with small towns before. Mia sat on the edge of the chair with her phone in her lap. Lily sat beside Miss Price, rabbit clutched tight, eyes tracking every adult voice. Sutter ended a call and looked at Lucas. Take your shirt off. Lucas blinked. What? Bruises, Sutter said. We photograph, today, with my timestamp, with a witness. Lucas did it, jaw clenched. Sutter took photos of the rib bruising and the red mark on Lucas's arm where Keller grabbed him, then photographed the urgent care discharge summary next to Lucas's driver's license so no one could claim the date belonged to someone else. Mia slid the broken phone across the desk. He grabbed me. It fell. Screen died. Sutter picked it up carefully like it was glass evidence. Good. That's destruction of property during a civil action. Add it. Mia's mouth tightened. He did it on purpose. I don't need purpose, Sutter replied. I need pattern. He turned his laptop toward them. Now we go to the pharmacy with the judge's order. If they refuse, we document the refusal. If they delay, we document the delay. Then, we file a complaint against the insurer's compliance team with the court order attached. Lucas swallowed. What if the deputy shows up? Sutter's eyes stayed flat. Then he better be ready to explain why he's interfering with a court order. They left with a certified copy in a sealed envelope and another copy folded into Sutter's inside jacket pocket. The sky was brighter now, but it didn't feel like daylight. It felt like exposure. At the pharmacy, Lucas's stomach clenched the second he saw the same pharmacist behind the counter. She looked up, recognized him, and her face tightened, like she'd been hoping he wouldn't return. Lucas placed the sealed court order on the counter without speaking. The pharmacist read the header. Her eyes moved faster as she found the judge's signature. A faint flush rose in her cheeks. "I'll need a moment," she said, and disappeared into the back. Mia leaned closer to Lucas, voice low. "Record." Lucas opened his phone and started recording. The camera pointed at the counter, the timestamp visible. Mrs. Price stood behind Lily like a wall. Lily's fingers clenched and unclenched around the rabbit's ear. The pharmacist returned, holding a bag that looked too small to carry so much meaning. "I'm releasing the medication," she said, voice stiff. "But I need you to sign here acknowledging—" Sutter stepped forward, calm. "He will sign receipt only, no additional statements." The pharmacist's eyes flicked to Sutter. "And you are?" "Counsel," Sutter said. The pharmacist slid the clipboard forward without arguing. Lucas signed. His hand shook only once. When the bag was in his hand, Lily's shoulders dropped like someone had loosened a rope around her chest. She didn't smile. She just breathed. Outside, in the parking lot, Mia finally exhaled hard. "Okay," she murmured, one fire out. Lucas stared at the bag in his hand. "So why do I feel worse?" "Because now they'll come for me instead," he thought. Sutter answered as if he'd heard it. "Because you're still thinking like a kid who has to survive alone," he said. "Stop. Today you have a record and a court order. That's a shield." Mia's phone buzzed again. She looked, and her eyes hardened. Lucas didn't have to ask. "What now?" Mia turned the screen toward Sutter instead. "They're posting it." On social media, Drew's face filled the frame, filmed from the front seat of a truck, eyes wide in fake outrage. He was talking about violent orphans, about assaulting law enforcement, about protecting children from unstable homes. He didn't mention Lily by name, but he didn't have to. In a town this small, everyone knew who the story was about by lunch. Under the video, comments piled up in real time, some cheering, some mocking, some asking where Lucas lived. Lucas felt nausea rise. Ms. Price swore under her breath. "They're painting a target." Sutter didn't blink. "Good. Let them commit defamation publicly. That's easier than whisper campaigns." Mia's voice dropped. "My dad said no noise." Sutter looked at her. "Noise isn't violence. Noise is sunlight." Mia held his gaze, then nodded once like she accepted the difference. Back at Sutter's office, he drafted 2 filings with the speed of someone who didn't sleep when he was angry. A formal notice to the DA regarding Keller's conflict, a complaint request for internal review of the deputy's conduct during the attempted removal, and a preservation demand for all communications related to Lucas's case. School emails, CFS logs, dispatch records, and pharmacy hold notes. "Now," Sutter said, turning to Lucas, "you're going to do one thing and you're going to do it perfectly. You're going to give Lily her dose, on camera, with the label visible, with the time visible." Lucas swallowed hard. It feels like you're living under a microscope," Sutter finished. "Yes, and that's what they wanted anyway. The difference is now you control the lens." Lucas did it. He filmed the bottle, the date, Lily taking the medication, and Lily drinking water after. Lily didn't complain. She didn't even look at the camera. She just obeyed like a kid who understood cameras were armor now. When it was done, Sutter nodded once. "Good." Mia's phone buzzed again, this time a message with no name, just a number. "You have 10 minutes to delete the audio, or the deputy executes the complaint." Mia's face went cold. She showed Sutter without speaking. Lucas felt his blood drain. "They can do that?" "They can try," Sutter said, and his voice stayed calm, but something behind it sharpened. "And now we have witness intimidation in writing." Mia's thumb hovered over her screen. "Do I reply?" "No," Sutter said. "We screenshot. We save. We don't play their game." Lucas stared at the message until the words blurred. 10 minutes. Delete the audio. Or else. Mia turned her phone face down. "It's backed up," she said quietly. "In places they can't touch." Sutter's laptop chimed, an incoming email. He opened it, scanned, then looked up at Mia. Quickmart responded to the preservation letter, he said. They're checking on the footage. Mia's eyes narrowed. That means it's about to disappear, Sutter nodded slowly. Unless we get it first. Lucas's ribs tightened as he breathed. How? Mia stood. We go there. Sutter held up a hand. Not you. Not with your name attached to every rumor in town. Mia's eyes stayed hard. Then I go. Ms. Price's voice was blunt. You ain't going alone. Mia looked at her, then nodded once. Okay. Lucas started to rise. Sutter's hand came down on Lucas's folder, firm. You stay. If they want an arrest scene, they don't get it. Lucas froze, hate and fear twisting together. I can't just sit here. You can, Sutter said, because the cleanest way to win is to not give them the picture they're trying to frame. Mia picked up the notebook and tucked it into her bag. We'll bring back the footage, she said, then added softer, or we'll bring back the proof it was destroyed. Ms. Price tightened her coat around Lily. Baby, you stay with Mr. Sutter. Lily grabbed Lucas's sleeve. Don't let them take you. Lucas knelt, careful with his ribs, and pressed his forehead to hers for 1 second. I won't, he whispered. I promise. Mia and Ms. Price left. The office felt smaller after the door shut. Sutter sat across from Lucas and finally let a sliver of emotion into his voice. Not comfort, not pity. Something colder. Deputy Keller made a mistake touching this, he said. People like him win when nobody's watching. Today, too many eyes just opened. Lucas stared at the cracked edge of the broken phone on the desk, then at Lily's small hand gripping the rabbit, then at his own bruised arm. Outside, somewhere in town, Drew Keller was still smiling at his own video. Inside a strip mall office, Lucas Reed sat perfectly still, waiting for the next move to come through a door he didn't control. Mia and Ms. Price were gone less than 5 minutes when Sutter killed the lights in his front office and pulled the blinds down halfway. Not because we're hiding, he told Lucas, because I don't give them a clean shot through a window. Lucas sat rigid with Lily on his left and the folder on his right like they were both life support. Every time a car door slammed outside, his ribs tightened. Sutter's phone rang twice in 10 minutes. He ignored both, then answered the third on speaker. Elias Sutter, he said. A man's voice came through, sharp and official. This is Sergeant Malloy, Sheriff's Office. We need to speak with Lucas Reed regarding an assault complaint. Sutter didn't look at Lucas. You'll speak with me. We need him present, Malloy pushed. No, you don't, Sutter replied. If you have probable cause, you get a warrant. If you want a statement, you schedule through counsel. Pick one. A pause. Deputy Keller says your client assaulted him. Sutter's tone stayed flat. Deputy Keller is conflicted, retaliatory, and was present at a welfare contact without an order. I filed notice of that with the court this morning. If you proceed on his word alone, you're stepping into it with both feet. Malloy exhaled. So he's refusing to cooperate. He's exercising rights, Sutter corrected. If you show up without a warrant, we record you, we file. If you show up with a warrant, we comply, and I'll see you in court. The line went dead. Lily's fingers clenched around the rabbit. Are they coming? Sutter finally looked at her. Not with me on the phone, he said. And not with what we've already saved. Lucas's stomach rolled anyway. They can still try, Sutter nodded once. That's why we don't give them a scene. At 11:18 a.m., Mia texted only 2 words. Got footage. Lucas's breath caught. Show me. Sutter took the phone, not Lucas. Not yet, he said, already calling her back. Where are you? Mia answered on speaker, voice tight but controlled. Quickmart manager tried to stall. Said the back camera glitched. Ms. Price saw him reach for the DVR like he was about to wipe it. I told him we had a preservation letter. Then, an employee, teen kid, pulled me aside and said the system auto-uploads to a cloud backup. Sutter's eyes sharpened. Did you get it? Yes, Mia said. 2 angles. You see Drew's truck, you see them pull Lucas behind the van, you see Blake pin him, you hear voices, and you see Drew step in close. Lucas's throat tightened. Does it catch the threat? Not the words, Mia admitted, but it shows the assault. It shows Lucas never swings, and it shows them choosing a blind spot. Sutter nodded like he'd expected that. Send raw files, no edits, and get the employee's name. Mia hesitated half a beat. He's scared. Then we protect him with paperwork, Sutter said. Send. The files hit Sutter's laptop minutes later. He watched with the sound off first, eyes locked on the timestamp in the corner. Then, he watched again with sound. Lucas couldn't look away. It was worse than memory, because memory could blur, video couldn't. He saw his own body jerk into the dumpster. He saw Tanner's grin. He saw Drew lean in and smile, like he was explaining something simple. Lily made a small noise and buried her face in Ms. Price's coat. "That's enough," Ms. Price murmured, furious and shaking. "That's enough to bury them." Sutter didn't celebrate. He opened a new email and attached the files to 3 addresses, then a 4th. DA, he said quietly. State intake, internal affairs, and he glanced at Mia's contact list on the screen without reading names out loud. Someone who doesn't lose things. At 2:07 p.m., Mia texted again. "My dad is coming. Clean. No drama." Lucas stared at the words until his eyes burned. Her dad. He's actually, Sutter cut in. Focus. Tonight is about leverage. Tonight? Lucas echoed. Sutter looked up. School fundraiser. Winter sports banquet. They're streaming it. Lucas's stomach dropped. "I'm suspended." "You're not going," Sutter said. "You're watching." He tapped the laptop screen. "They're building a public narrative that you're violent. We counter with facts in a place they can't quietly erase." Lucas felt cold. "You're going to expose them in front of everyone." "I'm going to make them lie where it's recorded," Sutter corrected. Evening came like a weight. Sutter's office turned into a command post. Laptop open to the school's live stream link, documents stacked, phone charging cables everywhere. Mia arrived just before the broadcast, hair pulled back, face set, Ms. Price at her side. Lily sat between them like a small anchor. And then, without noise, 3 men walked into the strip mall hallway and stopped outside the glass door. Leather jackets, quiet posture, the scar on the knuckle. Lucas's pulse spiked. Mia didn't flinch this time. She opened the door, stepped out, spoke to them in a voice Lucas couldn't hear, then came back in. "My dad's people," she said simply. "They're not here to fight. They're here to witness." Sutter nodded once like that mattered more than muscle. The stream started. The gym filled the screen. Balloons, banners, parents, teachers, the whole town packed into bleachers like it was a celebration. The principal took the mic, smiling too wide. He talked about community, about accountability, about keeping students safe. Then the sheriff stepped up. Deputy Keller stood behind him, arms folded, face blank. Lucas's hands went cold. Sutter didn't move. "Wait," he murmured. A teacher's hand hovered near the laptop trackpad. Someone Sutter had arranged, someone who had access to the broadcast feed through the school's own AV system. Lucas didn't know who. He didn't want to. On screen, Drew appeared beside the sheriff, looking solemn, playing the role of wounded virtue. Then the feed stuttered. The microphone squealed. The gym's big screen behind the stage flickered, just for a second, like someone had taken control. And then the evidence started. First, cafeteria video. Drew pouring soda on Mia, phones laughing, Lucas stepping in, Drew's fist to Lucas's ribs, gasps rippled through the gym. On the stream, heads turned. The principal spun toward the screen like he didn't believe it. Second, audio. Drew's voice clear as glass. "Sign it, or Lily doesn't stay with you." The gym went from gasps to shouting. Someone yelled, "That's a kid!" Deputy Keller moved fast toward the AV booth, but 2 men in suits met him halfway. Not bikers, not kids, not teachers. They held up badges. Keller stopped like he'd hit an invisible wall. Third, quick-marked footage. Drew's truck, the shove, the pin. Lucas's hands never rising to strike. The attack playing in clean, ugly silence. On stream, the sheriff's face drained. The principal's smile died completely. Drew tried to step away from the mic. A hand caught his elbow, one of the suited men, guiding him not roughly, just firmly, off the stage. A woman in another suit moved to Ms. Holloway in the front row. Ms. Holloway stood stiffly, clipboard clutched like it could protect her. She was escorted out the side door while the whole gym watched. The live chat on the stream exploded so fast the text blurred. Lucas sat frozen, ribs aching, heart hammering, watching his life get rewritten in public by something stronger than rumors. Proof. Lily lifted her head slowly. "They can't say it's me now," she whispered. Sutter's voice was low. "They can try. They just can't win." On screen, the sheriff grabbed for the mic again. Too late, too loud, trying to regain control. The crowd drowned him out. Parents stood, Phones rose. People filmed the officials being escorted out. And then Garland Hart walked onto the gym floor, not on the stage, not posturing, just walking like a man who didn't need permission. He didn't look at the cameras first. He looked at the crowd and spoke one sentence that the mic picked up. "This town is done eating its own kids." Lucas felt something in his chest loosen, barely, like his lungs remembered what air was. The broadcast didn't end cleanly. Nothing did, not after proof hit a room full of people who'd spent years pretending they hadn't seen anything. In the gym, the principal's hands fluttered uselessly over the microphone. The sheriff tried to speak. Parents shouted questions he couldn't answer without lying, and the suited investigators kept moving, quiet, controlled, guiding people off the floor like pieces in a chess game finally forced into the open. Lucas watched it all from Sutter's office, frozen in a chair that suddenly felt too small for his heartbeat. Garland Hart didn't take the stage, he didn't posture, he stood on the gym floor, level with everyone else, and the cameras found him anyway because the room did. "This town is done eating its own kids," Garland said again, slower, letting it sink. Then he turned slightly, speaking toward the nearest badge holder, not the crowd. "You have what you need," he said. "Now do your jobs." The suited woman nodded once. No smiles, no drama. On the live stream, Deputy Keller's jaw worked like he was chewing a rage he couldn't spit out. He tried to step in front of the AV booth door. A second badge flashed. He stopped. His hands clenched and unclenched at his sides, useless without the shadows. Drew Keller, Drew who always owned the room, was being walked out like any other kid. His head jerked once toward the crowd, looking for allies. He found none he could trust to admit it out loud. In Sutter's office, Lily's small shoulders were finally dropping, not relief, exhaustion. "Is it over?" she whispered. Sutter didn't lie to her. "The loud part is over," he said. "Now the real part starts." The next morning, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like paperwork, heavy, relentless, finally pointed in the right direction. Sutter was on the phone before sunrise. He filed supplemental exhibits, the Quick Mart footage, the urgent care report, the threat audio, the attempted removal timeline. He emailed state oversight, he copied the DA, he attached the court order that had forced the medication release, and he highlighted the insurance review note that magically appeared the same day the evaluation started. By noon, the town had a new rumor, but this one didn't protect Drew. It protected Lucas. A state investigator met Lucas and Ms. Price in a neutral office and took statements without smirking, without soft threats. The investigator asked for facts, not feelings. When Lucas described Deputy Keller's "stop resisting" while his hands were open, the investigator didn't raise an eyebrow. She wrote it down like she'd seen the move before. Ms. Holloway was placed on administrative leave pending review. The deputy's body camera logs and dispatch calls were requested by state, formally, not politely. The school district announced an internal inquiry. The principal's medical leave started the same day, and Drew's father stopped being the man who could walk into rooms and make adults go quiet, because now adults were watching him. Lucas went to the pharmacy again, this time with Sutter beside him and a printed order in hand, and the pharmacist didn't stall. She didn't say system. She didn't say authorization. She rang it up like it was always supposed to be simple. Outside, Lily took her medication without looking around like the world might steal it mid-sip. That night, Lucas returned to the community housing unit and found a new lockbox screwed to the inside of the closet wall. Ms. Price crossed her arms. "Don't look at me," she said. "Somebody's people dropped it off, said it's for documents." Inside were folders, tabs, and a cheap scanner. Mia set a second notebook beside it. "Backups," she said, "always." Lucas looked at her. "So, you're not going back to being new tomorrow?" Mia's mouth twitched, almost a smile, then gone. "No, I'm done hiding my name." The town found out the obvious within hours. People started saying Hart like it explained everything. Lucas hated that, because it wasn't true. A week later, in a quiet courthouse hallway, Garland Hart finally stood in front of Lucas without cameras, without crowds. He wasn't wearing colors. He wasn't trying to look dangerous. He looked like a man who'd learned long ago that control was louder than noise. Lucas expected a speech about Mia. Instead, Garland nodded toward Lucas's rib brace. "Heel up." Lucas's throat tightened. "You didn't have to." "I didn't," Garland agreed. Lucas blinked. "Then why?" Garland's eyes held his, steady. Because you stood up when you had nothing to gain. Lucas swallowed. I just didn't want her to be alone. Garland's voice stayed calm. That's the point. Most people wait until they have backup. You didn't. Lucas felt heat sting behind his eyes and forced it down. He wouldn't give anyone a scene, not even a good one. Garland looked past him toward Lily, who was sitting with Ms. Price, rabbit in her lap, watching the hallway like she was learning what safety looked like when it wasn't imaginary. She's yours? Garland asked. Lucas nodded. Yeah. Garland's jaw tightened slightly. Then she's ours too, Lucas frowned. What does that mean? It means there are kids in this town who keep getting crushed because they're easy, Garland said, and we're expanding the circle of who counts as untouchable. Lucas stared. You're doing this because of me. Garland didn't smile. I started paying attention because of you. Then he held out a card, different from Sutter's but just as plain. A job address, a real one, not under-the-table shifts and fear of inspections, a shop that didn't answer to the sheriff's office. Show up Monday, Garland said. Learn, work, get paid on paper. Lucas hesitated. Pride tried to speak first. He shut it up. He took the card. Thank you. Garland nodded once. Don't thank me. Keep your hands clean, keep your head straight, and don't let them write your story again. In the months that followed, the town didn't magically become good, but it became watched. The school installed cameras that didn't malfunction. The advisory board quietly changed faces. An independent review of child services procedures came down from the state. Deputy Keller's complaint against Lucas died under evidence before it ever made it to a courtroom, and the people who'd used their jobs as weapons stopped doing it so loudly. Lucas kept his binder updated anyway, because survival taught him that safety wasn't a feeling. It was structure. Lily started sleeping in her own bed again. She stopped flinching at knocks. She started asking for normal things, stickers, cartoons, a library card, like her brain finally believed the future wasn't just something that happened to other kids. And on one ordinary evening, Lucas stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes while Lily did homework at the table, Mia sitting nearby with her own notes, helping without taking over. Lucas glanced at the lockbox in the closet, at the labeled folders, at the medications lined up with the dates visible, at the quiet order in their small home. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt something rarer. He felt stable.